After accidentally proving the Aether is real, I go through the portal and am left to survive in the sky dimension. This is Minecraft Tales of the Aether. When I got through the portal, I found a book of lore in my inventory. I had no clue what it did. I started punching trees and got skyroot logs. After getting some wood, I found this weird bird thing. I didn't know if it was friendly, but so far I seemed okay. I went and crafted a skyroot pickaxe and went and found some stone. This was called holy stone, and I made some tools. As I was chopping more wood, I noticed a ginormous flying whale go right by. He seemed very peaceful though. I then found this vortex that was spitting out random resources, maybe from the overworld, and then there was this guy in the sky who was shooting snowballs at me, but he was missing. I went and took a look at the animals, and I found a really fat sheep, and he just launched himself in the air. And he was falling very slowly. I went to go see what ores I could find, and I found this new stone, and it turned out to be ice stone. I tried crafting things with it, but I couldn't figure out any recipes, so I just got a few and stopped mining it. While I was mining stone, I noticed I was getting these ambrosium shards, but once again, I couldn't figure out what to do with them. This cloud guy was annoying me, and I tried swinging at him, but he just dipped. I saw these really cool trees high up, and I saw they had special blocks on them, but I couldn't figure out how to get up there, so I just left it alone. And then I watched one of these majestic whales get stuck in a cloud. I thought all the birds were friendly until I got shot by a random arrow, and my vision went super weird. Everything was good though once I found some blueberries and got to full health. Hopefully, those would be enough to last me until day 2. Starting off day 2, I found this cloud and figured out that I could break the blocks, and it turns out they made me jump really high. They also stopped fall damage, so I figured these would be useful in the future. I noticed the flying cows were very attracted to my blueberries, so I gave them a couple and well, they made a baby. I was getting more blueberries and I randomly got knocked back by something, and I think it was the snowball from the cloud thing, which didn't seem too bad. But now at least I know what they do. I found this pink ore, but my pickaxe was too weak, and then I finally took down one of these bird things, but they only dropped feathers. I found a new ore I haven't seen before, but it turned out just to be the ambrosium shards that I already had. I then found this sand, which I picked up, and it turned out to be quick soil, and when I hopped on it, I just slid right off. This would be a problem in the future, and you'll see why. This tree looked really cool, and I tried mining it, but it just dropped the same skyroot logs. This flower thing spawned right in front of me, and it turned out it wasn't friendly, so I took it down, and I got some sort of petal. I had a feeling it would be useful for something at least. I decided to test out my theory of stopping fall damage with cloud blocks, and it worked perfectly. Except I had to remember to stay shifted until I got out of the block, and then I was good. I searched around a bit more and found a purple ore, and this one I could mine. I looked at it and it was called zanite, and it turns out I could make a pickaxe out of it, and this pickaxe did let me mine the pink ore. I picked it up, and this ore turned out to be called gravitite. I mined a lot more of it to see what I could make with it. But I didn't have anything to smelt the ores with, so right now it was pretty much useless. I needed to get off the main island, so I set out to build all the way over. It was risky, but I ended up making it to the other side. And here's where I almost died by sliding off the quick soil. Note to self, do not go on that on the edge. This island seemed to have a lot more zanite, so I mined all of it that I could. I found more zanite, and it turns out you could make a chestplate and weapons out of it. When I was exploring, I saw an island that looked like it had some sort of structure on it, but when I looked closer it was just trees, but they looked different. And then after that I came really close to dying, but overall I'm looking good going into day 3. I started off by failing to hit a snowball back to that cloud thing, and then I noticed a block up there that looked different. But when I got there, I tried mining it for so long, but it just wouldn't break. I looked for some sort of entrance, but I only found golden trees on the top. I mined all around, but I couldn't find any entrance. But I did end up finding some more zanite and made some more armor. But after a long search, I found the entrance to the dungeon, and there was some fire creature inside. But being me, I went up and tried hitting it, and it didn't do anything. I tried breaking the netherrack, but still nothing happened, and I just got set on fire. I feel like there was something I was supposed to do before taking down the dungeon, so I just went exploring. And that's when I came across a ginormous structure in the clouds, and this black vortex, which in hindsight, was a bad idea. And then I thought of another idea. I knew these portal things spit out random items from the overworld, and I was really hoping it would spit out cobblestone so I could make a furnace. While I was searching for more vortexes, I came across a pretty handsome looking green sheep. I didn't really know what he did, but he was pretty cool. Eventually, I found a vortex, and sure enough, it started spitting out cobblestone. I waited around until it spit out enough cobblestone, and I picked up enough to be able to craft a furnace. My theory was that if I made a furnace, I could smelt the pink ore I have, and it didn't work, so I guess I was gonna need something else. And you know how it goes, more dangerous sky bridging, but I live on the edge. I found another floating island with one of those dungeons, but obviously I couldn't take that down. and I came across a dark variation of one of the bird things, and I assumed it would attack me, but it actually didn't, so at least I got 2 feathers. Not having a full set of armor bothered me, so I mined enough Zanite to make all tools and armor. But somehow without the helmet, I had this many armor bars, and then when I put on the helmet, I lost 2 full armor bars. I don't know who is responsible for that, but someone has some explaining to do. I finished off with coming back to the Sky Temple in preparation for day 4. It looked very intimidating, but I think I could take it down. This will be the first structure I've actually explored. Hopefully, we'll make it out alive in day 4. Before going to the Sky Temple, I really needed to do something. I needed to find out what these trees were all about. So I did some more dangerous sky bridging and made my way over to these trees. And when I mined the leaves, they gave me white apples. I got a lot of them since I didn't really feel like coming back here. And when I ate one, well, my vision turned all green, and I didn't know what was happening. It didn't seem like it did anything though, so I guess it wasn't a bad thing. There was also something I really wanted to try out, but first I had to get rid of this thing, and I got another petal from it. Unfortunately, the thing I wanted to try out was the sacrifice of a sheep, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. I tried getting the fat one, and he just jumped, so I waited for him, and unfortunately, he also did not drop anything, but their sacrifices would be remembered. It was time to take down the Sky Temple. I built all the way up and made my way to the entrance. The temple was on a ton of cloud blocks, and I was really curious to see if I could even stand on them. I didn't want to try, but eventually I just went for it, and it turns out you just sink right to the bottom, but you can stand. I tried mining the pillars, and sure enough, well, I got a pillar. But I tried mining the other blocks and they didn't break. When I got there, there was a chest, but when I opened it, it just started attacking me. I was hoping for some cool loot, but nothing dropped. Pretty much every chest I opened attacked me, and I mean literally every single chest I opened. It was probably about 6. But eventually, I found a chest with loot in it. It had golden darts, which I didn't know what they did, but I grabbed them anyways, and ambrosium torches. I was walking through some room, and I think I set off a trap that spawned some warrior. I got a chat message saying they weren't going easy on me, so I had to take her down. I ended up getting a victory medal, but it didn't do anything. I tried clicking on it, but nothing happened. I went to the second story and found a whole nother chest room. I got a golden dart shooter from this chest. I didn't know what this did, so I grabbed it, and I started shooting darts at the wall. I spent a few seconds trying to figure out why the sound sounded like I was getting damaged, but I let it go. I tried testing out the dart shooter on the warrior girl, and that really did not work out. So I resorted to the good old-fashioned sword. I found a few more unique items in the chest, such as different darts, a moa egg, a music disc, and even a bucket of skyroot poison, which I really was curious to see what happened. I tried drinking it, but I decided that really wasn't a good idea. And I also somehow thought this would work, but she didn't drink the poison. I then found some throne room where I talked to apparently the Valkyrie queen. She requested to fight, and naturally I said yes, but I needed 10 victory medals first, so I got those. I came back and talked to her again. I told her I wanted to fight again, and she said I have the medals, so I'm all good. And we started our fight. The Valkyrie queen had an insane amount of health. From the beginning, I had a really good rhythm going, and she wasn't really attacking me. I kept hitting her out of the air, until I tried eating, and well, she did 3.5 hearts in one hit. Over time, she started spawning these cloud things and lightning, which was pretty scary. But eventually, I cornered her, and had a super good rhythm going where she couldn't touch me. The fight took so long that it even broke the second sword I picked up in one of the chests, but eventually, I finally took her down, and got an achievement. The Valkyrie Queen dropped a silver key and a golden sword. I don't know what the significance of the sword was, but the key was definitely used for this chest that just opened up in the middle of the room. I used the key to unlock it, and I got insane loot. I got Valkyrie leggings and a chest plate. I got 2 pairs of these boots called Neptune boots, a good amount of these blue gummy things which I had no clue what they did, and even a Valkyrie shovel. I put on all my brand new armor, and my armor bars went to pretty much full health. Now with my new armor, hopefully I had a shot at taking down some of the harder dungeons. Let's see what we're gonna explore in day 5. I couldn't stop myself from drinking the poison, but the white apples actually cured me, so I guess that's what they do. There was a reason I decided to drink the poison, and that's because after I did, I got an empty skyroot bucket, and then I could get a water bucket that actually worked. I was tired of saving myself with clouds. I found some more gravitite, but after mining it, I noticed it actually floats to the ceiling. I was running around a bit when I saw a weird tunnel in the mountain. I made my way over, and sure enough, it was a new dungeon. Once again, I tried slaying the cloud monster, but I just couldn't do it. I crept on in, and when I got inside, there was a little guy that spawned behind me, but I took him down. I was about to go inside to fight the main boss, but then I kept setting off traps that spawned more of them, and this one actually exploded this time. I accidentally spawned another one, and I took him down, hopefully without exploding, yes. And then in the main room, there was a giant cube. I tried hitting it with my sword, but the chat said I need a pickaxe. So I hit him with a pickaxe, and well, he woke up. He started attacking me, and well, I wasn't exactly winning the fight. But eventually, I figured out a pattern where he couldn't hit me if I just circled around him. The cube could only travel horizontally, so I just stayed in its diagonals, and I thought I was pretty much safe for the rest of the fight. But then he started going super fast, but I ended up taking him down. I grabbed the key and opened the chest, and sure enough, there was a lot of items that I did not have. There were lightning knives, agility capes, and other golden gummy things that I didn't know what it did. But I grabbed this shield and put it on. It ended up putting a transparent piece of armor around me, so I'm assuming I was more protected. I grabbed the agility cape and put it on as well. I tried running around and it looked pretty cool, but I didn't really know what it did. But I figured out I could just run up blocks without jumping. I grabbed a lightning knife and, well, it spawns lightning. So I figured they'd be useful, and I grabbed all of them, along with these gummy things. Not only did I look super cool, but I think I was geared enough to take on the island dungeon in day 6. Today was the day to take down the island dungeon. First, I had to get some better gear, so I made a block called an enchanter, and this allowed me to smelt my gravitite ore. These ores took so long to smelt, probably 2 minutes per ore. While that was going on, I made a giant staircase up to the island. I crafted a gravitite sword and helmet, and I just hoped this would be enough to take on the final boss of the Aether. And then I just found this sheep kind of floating in midair, but I had to let him go. I made my way up to the dungeon, and I hoped I was ready to face the boss. I put out all the fires just to make sure though. I couldn't hit him at all, so I decided to talk with him. And he didn't really like me, so he started throwing fireballs at me. I couldn't hit him or deflect the fireballs back at him, but occasionally he would throw an ice ball, and when I hit him with it, it damaged him. He didn't do much damage himself, but the catch was that whenever I hit him with an ice ball, he spawned a mini version of himself, and the mini version actually started to attack me and set me on fire. The mini version actually did far more damage than the actual sun spirit, but when I almost died, I used some of those gummies I got in the other dungeon and they just healed me to full health. But so far, I was surviving much better than the other dungeons. The entire fight lasted about 20 minutes and it took a long time to actually aim the ice balls and hit him successfully. But I survived and I kept hitting ice balls back at him, and this doesn't even account for all the shots I missed. Eventually, I timed it perfectly for the finishing hit and I defeated the sun spirit. This was the final boss of the Aether, and I grabbed the golden key and opened the chest, and there was quite a bit of loot waiting for me. First, I got a vampire blade, which had the same amount of damage as my gravitite sword. I got gravitite gloves and phoenix boots, which seemed pretty good. And then I got some random things such as an iron bubble and a life shard. After putting on all my armor, I looked pretty sick. After surviving for this long, it was time to settle down and make myself a home. It was time to settle down and build my house. I got a lot of wood and stone and started making the foundation. My time here in the Aether was coming to an end, and I wanted to finish off my experience with a very nice looking house. I wanted to go for a medieval style roof and it looked pretty good. I ended up smelting quicksoil for some cool looking glass. And then I made a small little stone window for the top floor. I wanted to spice up the walls a bit, so I made some planters with some trapdoors. I put stone walls on the corners of each of the roof blocks, and while this was a small detail, it actually looked really nice. I finished off the planters by putting in flowers. I built a small chimney on the roof and added some decorations to the front of my house. After putting in the glass, I feel like it added a really nice touch. I was just about done and I noticed one of the saplings in my planters grew into my house. But then I thought this looked really good, so I just decided to replace the block with wood, and it turned out very, very nice. I decorated upstairs a bit, and I went outside to gaze upon my beautiful house. This was the end of my time in the Aether, and it was time to settle down in the house I built. I put all of my items away in the chest, and I went out to watch the sunrise on a beautiful land. To think a week ago this all started with me trying to prove a myth, but the adventure was over. I could rest now. After a Minecraft theory goes wrong, I fall into an ocean and wake up in a new dimension. This is Minecraft Into the Abyss. I started walking around and I noticed the ground was super mushy. I went over to punch at some weird looking wood, but it didn't do anything, which was bad because I needed tools. I picked up a plant and it was called Species X, which was a really disturbing name. In general, there was a lot of weird looking plants. I found these tiny rocks on the ground, and when I punched them, they gave me cracked stone brick. But when I tried putting them back on the ground, they didn't turn out that way. I found this red plant, but when I broke it, it caught on fire. So I really did not want to touch this. I found a woman named Sylvia and talked to her, but she had a quest for me and I wasn't really ready for that. Considering I had no weapons, I didn't really know if I could do it. I found this thing called Lauren, which apparently was energy, whatever that meant. I found a new type of wood, and this time it actually let me craft abyss oak wood planks, and I finally got some wood tools. I went exploring a bit more and I found these crystals and I broke them, and well, they were exactly what I thought they were, abyss crystals. I took a stab at breaking one of the slime trees and I got these things called life nuggets. Soon after, I ran into an enemy. It was an abyss guard, and he did a lot of damage. It was actually scary how fast these mobs ran. But I outsmarted him and took him down with only a wood sword. He only dropped a golden nugget, which was definitely not worth it. I was just minding my own business, and all of a sudden I started getting bombarded by these floating white things, and they started shooting at me, and I was definitely on the verge of dying. And it didn't help that these things were scarily accurate. They got me down to 1 heart and I was barely dodging their shots. But by some miracle, I somehow made it out alive. I was about to fight a new mob, and then all of a sudden I just got struck with blindness. So I retreated to the water because I was just absolutely terrified. This was supposedly a level 1 soul guard. I started to hit him in the water because he went super slow, and he didn't take any knockback whatsoever. This soul guard took me so long to kill, and the fact that it was only a level 1 was very concerning, but he did drop an ender pearl. I really didn't want to know what the higher level mobs did. I started going more into that territory, and all of a sudden, these boss bars with the name Elder came up on my screen, and there were 2 of them. I looked around and I couldn't really see anything, but I had a feeling I should get out of there now while I still can. I finally found a regular zombie. Well, not a regular zombie. I mean, this one was jumping and I actually thought he was going to kill me. But still, the block strategy worked and he couldn't really hit me. And then something weird happened. It said I was scared and I could see every mob around. My vision went dark, but every mob in the area was now highlighted and I could see them anywhere. I also had a potion effect called Fear, which I didn't know what it did. But long story short, that zombie literally dropped 1 arrow. I finally found regular stone so I could make some stone tools, and I thought my stone pickaxe would let me mine this cool looking ore, but it didn't. I had a feeling that was some abyss ore that would let me craft better stuff. I tried using abyss stone to maybe make a furnace, but no matter what crafting recipe I put, I couldn't make anything with the stone. So I just decided to make a regular furnace and try out my theory. My theory was that Lauren was essentially a replacement for coal because it said it can be used for fuel. And I tried putting stone in, and sure enough, it did work. So I guess I was just gonna have to get a ton of Lauren instead of coal. I was wandering a bit and I came across a regular cactus. Nothing special about it. But it wasn't completely useless because I looked over there and I saw some orange light. So I went in that direction and I found a new biome. I talked to this person named Lorenzo, and apparently there was a world called the Frost World and there was a portal in this biome. Yeah, I definitely wasn't ready to find any of that, so I left him be. I found these pink crystals and I was really hoping I could make better weapons or armor with it, so I mined pretty much all of it. But when I tried crafting with it, it did nothing. Not even a single thing. But I accidentally ate it, and apparently it gives me jump boost and speed 5, which was really good. So I kept a lot of those. I placed the bigger ones, and sure enough, they just mined into the smaller ones, so I farmed a bunch of those. I don't know why, but every now and then I would just get regeneration and extra health, and then it would just go away in an instant. I didn't really know what that was about. I was speeding around with one of my crystals and I came upon my first structure. I didn't really know if I had the weapons to take this down yet, so I just peeked inside. I did hear spiders though, which wasn't a good sign. I tried climbing up to take a look, and sure enough, an insanely fast spider came out at me, so I just booked it. I was not going to deal with that. The abyss was terrifying, but I had to survive until day 2. In day 2, I went down into the mines and I found a dungeon. As of now, I had no way of mining any ores in the abyss, but after opening the chest and finding 4 iron, I made an iron pickaxe. Going back a few minutes, I found this fire and I broke it and it gave me fire nuggets, but I didn't find any use for it. I went back over to the ore and tried mining it, but still no luck. I even found a new red ore and I just still couldn't mine it. But eventually, I found a new green ore and I mined it and I got an unknown gem. I mined a few more of these and I tried making a pickaxe out of it and it worked. I got an unknown pickaxe. I was pretty hopeful this time, so I went back to the red ore and I got fire diamonds. I spent a good amount of time mining a bunch of these fire diamonds, so hopefully I could make armor and tools, but when I tried making tools, it didn't work. But they said I could use them for tools, so I must have needed something else. When I put the diamond in alone, I got a nether fire ingot, but I couldn't use those to craft anything. I tried playing around with different recipes, but unfortunately, I couldn't really figure out any way past it. But on the plus side, I did try making fire diamond armor, and it worked, and the armor looked really cool. While I searched for more fire diamonds, I ended up coming across a pink ore, which turned out to be abyss diamonds. I made an abyss diamond sword because I only found 2, and it had plus 8.4 attack damage, so it was time to get rid of the stone sword. I went ahead and finished up crafting the last pieces of my nether fire armor, and now I looked really cool. I ended up accidentally mining into unknown gems, so I got all of these because they seemed really rare. But when I tried making a sword with them, nothing happened, so I'm assuming this was the same situation as the nether fire ingots and I needed something else. I had a theory that my armor gave me fire resistance, well, you know, because it's called fire armor, and sure enough, it worked, so I was pretty pleased with that. I got a few more unknown gems and tried making armor, and sure enough, this one worked. Unknown armor must have been really strong because those boots did plus 8 armor, while my boots did plus 3 armor. I was just minding my own business, and then I literally got struck from lightning inside the cave. I think it was time to go up to the surface. Overall, I was really happy because this seemed like a very successful mining trip. I got to the surface and took a look around, and I was just ready to explore. I ended up finding this dude named Carlos, but he said he needed an abyss melon, which I did not have, so I couldn't complete that quest. But then I came upon this guy named Marcus, and let me tell you something, do not trust Marcus. He asked for a nether fire ingot, which I did have, so I gave him one, and he promised me a chestplate, and he did not deliver, because I did not get a chestplate, and every time I tried talking to him, he just ignored me. So rule number 1, do not trust Marcus. I ended up finding these cow-like creatures, which was really good because I actually had no source of food, so I spent a little time getting a lot of food from them. Somehow the steak was already cooked, but I wasn't going to question it. I ended up finding an ore on the surface, and I mined it, and it gave me a frozen diamond, which seemed really good. I was just about to go searching for more frozen diamonds, and then apparently I got scared. Which, I definitely wasn't scared, but apparently I was scared. I was just chilling getting some more meat, and then a scorpion attacked me. It was only level 2, and I took it down pretty quickly, and it dropped nether scorpion eyes, but I threw him out. I found a zombie, but this time it was level 4, and it was covered in armor. And let me tell you, this zombie took so long to kill. If my sword wasn't as strong as it was, I definitely would have had a harder time. And I did all of this for one single arrow. So yeah, that was definitely worth it. I really thought I found abyss melons, but this ended up being the biggest disappointment, because it just ended up being wood. Soon after, I noticed I was getting swarmed with mobs, and there ended up being creepers, and they were only level 1, but they were traveling super fast. I saw an outline of a mob, and I went to go check it out. It was a level 4 wolf, and I thought he was friendly, and then he started chasing me, so I just booked it. I finally got the chance to mine the colored ore, but it ended up just being an ore version of Lauren. And then I just started being attacked by a combination of mobs and weather, so I had to get out of there. So I thought I found regular cows, and they looked at me and they were definitely possessed, and they started attacking me. There was also a creeper among them which wasn't very happy. I tried killing it, but it ended up exploding. Note to self, not even the cows are safe. I talked to this guy named Jackson and he asked for a ring, but I had no ring on me. And soon enough, the elder bar spawned again, and I had no clue where it was. Part of me still did not want to find it. I found more frozen diamonds, and I really wanted to go looking for more because I wanted more armor and more tools. But then I came across this mob called a phantom, and I tried taking it down, and well, bad series of events happened. I tried taking this floating thing down, and I just could not get close to it. I was actually gonna die. And that's when I dodged that one shot. My life in the abyss was about to be over from that shot. I found this block called Phantom Ranks, but it only seemed like decoration blocks, so I left them behind. This is when I started getting excited. I dug bones and I got broken titan bones. If I could somehow craft titan armor, now how cool would that be? I talked to this person named Maramus and they were asking for an unknown gem, which I did have. I was really hoping I didn't get scammed like Marcus did, so I just gave it to her, but she ended up dropping a really cool sword. It was an abyss fire sword. It was a little less damage than the abyss diamond sword, but it probably lit people on fire. I came across a new biome I've never seen before. I dug the soil and it was called Roma mud. I wanted to test out my new sword. I found an abyss guard and sure enough, my sword lit him on fire. The level 1 guards were now no sweat. I was running around and a boss bar came up that said Crystal Golem. I don't know if I was ready to take it on yet, so I didn't go looking for it. and then 2 of them came up, so I definitely wasn't gonna do that. I took a break and started to explore some crafts. I couldn't craft frozen diamond tools, which was discouraging. I took the broken titan bones and ended up crafting regular titan bones. My hopes for getting titan armor were coming true. I took all the titan bones, but it only made bone armor, and it wasn't even that good. This zombie tried pulling up on my crafting experiments, so I took him out really quickly. The bone chestplate wasn't terrible, but I figured my fire armor was better. It turns out I can make bone tools too, but the pickaxe seemed much worse than my unknown pickaxe, so I threw out all the titan bones. After running around, I came upon the crystal golem. It was level 10. Hopefully, if I get more armor, I can take down the crystal golem in day 3. I started off day 3 with talking to a guy named Steven, and oh man, he had a story. He talked about 2 ancient gods, one named Nosaj, the ruler of peace, and one named Roka, the ruler of darkness. Apparently, Roka wanted to rule everything, and they had a fight that left Nosaj dead. I asked why Nosaj died. Steven said Nosaj used all their power to banish Roka to the Abyss dimension, where I was, but Roka and his minions are slowly conquering the Abyss and making their return. It seems like somehow I got stuck in the middle of stopping this dark ancient god. I asked Steven if there was any way we could kill the Roka boss. He said there's only one way to stop him, and I have to find a monolith and return the pages to him. This was such a crazy story, but I went looking for him. But I started to feel like what Steven was saying was true, because when I went into the forest, I got a boss bar that said the Roka. I don't know if this was the Roka himself, or maybe one of his minions, but either way, I couldn't see a thing. I kept traveling, and eventually I got blindness too. But this time it was something different. The blindness kept resetting. As long as I stayed in whatever area I was in, the blindness would keep resetting, so I had to leave. I finally went back to one of these structures because maybe this was one of the monoliths that Steven was talking about. When I got to the top though, there was a random spawner and I just decided to break it. But when I looked around, there was just absolutely nothing here. I found another one and I tried exploring the lower levels this time. Maybe I missed a chest or something. On the first floor, I just found a scorpion spawner, which I had to break. The second floor, the exact same thing, just a scorpion spawner. And then the third floor, well, I'm sure you guessed it, it was a third scorpion spawner. I went to the final floor, but there was someone following me from behind, and then he just teleported away. I looked everywhere, but I couldn't see where he went. This was getting really creepy. I looked off to the side, and I saw him again. I tried going over, but he kept teleporting away and shooting things at me. I really did not want to get into this, so I just ran for my life. I talked to this guy Lorenzo, and he told me there was a portal to the frost dimension deep in the caves, and I ended up finding it. I went into the room and there was a portal there, but I didn't have anything to light it with. But little did I know, I had all the materials I needed to make a key to light the portal. I used ice diamonds and the new stone from that room and made a key of ice. I used the key and lit the portal. I went through the portal and came out in a giant black stone room. I went to the surface and I found an insane ice biome. This place was massive. I looked around and it seemed like there were some warriors, and they definitely started attacking me, so I started swinging at them. They didn't seem too harmful, but after a couple came in, they actually did a good amount of damage, and they shot these weird smoke things that actually attacked me too. But, of course, their greatest weakness was the fact that I could build up 3 blocks high, and they can't touch me whatsoever. So, I did that strategy and took them down. They ended up dropping these things called night shards, but I didn't know what they did. I couldn't craft anything with them. But I really hoped it led to better armor because I really needed it. I went exploring and I found a forest biome in the frozen world. I traveled for a really long time, but I didn't find anything significant. No structures, no interesting people to talk to, just these night mobs. But I did go back to Lorenzo after going to the frost world, and he gave me something. It was a ring of invisibility. It said it makes you invisible, so I right-clicked it, and sure enough, I was completely invisible. I was really hoping this worked against mobs though. I really needed to discover what this whole Roka thing was about. Let's see what secrets we can discover in day 4. After getting back from the Frost World, I decided to go mining for better armor. The mobs were getting crazy, so I just decided to dig straight down. I heard something taking damage and it was one of the eyeball things, and it led me to a cave. What I wanted out of this caving trip was more unknown gems. I knew making unknown armor would be much stronger than the fire diamond armor I already had on, so I wanted to get enough for a full set. But while I was looking for more unknown gems, I came across a dark green ore. This was apparently called garnite ore, so I mined 4 of them. And of course, while I'm mining it, I have to get interrupted by this thing. And I finally took it out. These things are so annoying. I took some time to play around with different crafting recipes. I tried making Garnite boots, but it didn't seem too strong. It seemed like unknown armor still would have been better. I compared it to the stats of unknown armor, and it's true, unknown armor was much better than Garnite armor. However, I made a Garnite sword, and this was much stronger than the Abyss Diamond sword I had. I played around with Lauren and the unknown gems, and I got Lauren energy, which apparently was used for more weapons. I tried making Abyss Diamond armor to see what the stats on those were, but they were definitely weaker than all the other armors. Here's something I discovered though. If I made a sword formation with unknown gems and put fire nugs on the side, it gave me an unknown sword, which was barely stronger than my Abyss Diamond sword, so I didn't really take it. I decided to settle with the Garnite sword, which was a good 3 damage higher than my regular sword. I went ahead and crafted the unknown chestplate, unknown legs, and unknown boots. I was a bit worried though, because my current fire armor gave me fire resistance. I didn't really know if the unknown armor would be worth it to give up fire resistance for better protection, but it was clear that the unknown armor was much stronger. I only had 3 pieces on and I was already full armor bars. I finally found enough unknown gems to finish off my full set of unknown armor, and I was really hoping I would get some sort of potion effect, but nothing happened. With my new armor, I decided to take on the Crystal Golem. I was a bit worried though, because most of the mobs I've been fighting have been level 1 to 4, and this Crystal Golem was level 10. But I just decided to go for it, and I started my attack on the Crystal Golem. And, well, he was very slow. This was a bit underwhelming. I was just backing up and hitting him, and he couldn't even get close to me. He didn't even hit me one time. I didn't want to take any chances though, because I might just get one shot, but I'm still curious to see how much damage he would have done if he had landed a hit on me. But clearly, he did not land a hit on me, and this fight lasted about 20 seconds. But as if this wasn't disappointing enough, I killed him, and he didn't drop a single thing. I noticed these fast things didn't have any name to it, but I kind of remembered something that Sylvia told me about a quest. She said her friend was killed by raptors, so I went and talked to her, and sure enough, I completed the quest. But, like Marcus, she scammed me again. I am telling you all now, do not trust Sylvia and Marcus. There was one thing I never figured out, and that's the Elder boss. I took out the Crystal Golem pretty easily, so I was pretty confident I could take out whatever the Elder was, but when I searched around, I could not find a single trace of the Elder. Maybe he was underground? I completed a quest for Lorenzo, and he gave me a Ring of Regen, and whenever I clicked it, it gave me Regen 3. It's time I went looking for clues about the Roka to take down the final boss. I went back to the forest and I got blindness, so I was sure I was in the right place. I just needed to find the boss bar. After a minute of searching, the Roka boss bar came up again, but I saw these creatures up ahead that did not look friendly. I went a little closer and they were called lurkers and they were level 10, and they started charging me. I was really hoping these things could not jump, or else my crazy thought out plan of building a cobblestone pillar was a bust. But so far, I think I was safe. They couldn't really touch me up here, so I just decided to take them out one by one. Pro tip to everyone watching, if you don't want to die, I recommend making a cobblestone pillar, and you should be good. I just noticed a second Roka boss bar came up. Just what I needed in a situation like this. I had enough of my pillar, so I just jumped down and faced the worker head on, and I won the fight. I wasn't scared anymore, and I was going to charge the Roka head on wherever it was. I went searching, and it said I feel an energy nearby, so I must have been close. After getting blindness, I lied, I was pretty scared, so I built back up. And of course, there was a lurker behind me. But you never know, maybe the Roka was in the air. I had no way of knowing. Unfortunately for me, the Roka was not in the air, so I had to go back down and clear out all those mobs. Good old pillar strategy never failed me, and I jumped down and I was more determined than ever to find the Roka. I was looking around and I really couldn't find anything, but there were certain areas where it said there's an energy nearby, so I must have been really close. I tried locating it, and sure enough, I found something right next to me. And I think I put all the pieces together. I think this was the monolith that Steven was talking about. I broke it, and I got some sort of paper. I picked it up, and it said the fusion. This was one of the pages that Steven was talking about. It turns out the Roka wasn't a boss to begin with. They were the pages, and I was gonna find them all in day 5. In day 5, after finding the first monolith, I went back to Steven to see what he had to say. I told him I found a page and he gave me some weird crafting recipe for a book. It looked like the recipe needed 3 pages from the monoliths and then 1 horn thing. I looked back to see what it was, but he never told me what it was. It looked like it would be dropped from some sort of mob, maybe if I killed the Elder or something. I started my journey to look for the 2 other pages, and I'm just gonna let this play for itself. Yeah, so I don't know what I did, but I recommend not doing whatever I just did. or else you probably will die. I got the Elder boss bar again, and I was really determined to find the Elder this time. I don't know why it wasn't spawning, or I couldn't see it anywhere, but 2 of them showed up, and I looked everywhere, and I could not find a single trace of an Elder. Things started to get problematic when I ran out of food, and when I had no sprint, I couldn't run away from these annoying white things, so I had to block myself in. But as if these eyeball things weren't annoying enough, they actually go through walls. I recommend never going near these things in the abyss. I finally found more abyss cows, or whatever you call them. I actually do not know the name of these mobs, but I mean they dropped cooked steak, so must be a cow, right? These are pretty much the only source of food in the abyss, so I recommend finding a plains biome fast. While I was searching for more cows, I came across the second monolith. I went over to it and started hitting it, but I forgot it doesn't work that way. You have to right click it. Also right click it without a sword. I got a second piece of paper. This one was called number 32. It feels wrong. The name definitely gave off some creepy vibes, but we were in the abyss, so I guess it makes sense. I only had to find one more monolith, and then I had to deal with the horn thing. I got an Elder boss bar again, but just like every single time, I could not find it. In the last episode, I determined that the Roka boss bar was actually a sign of a monolith, but now I don't think so, because when I found this one, it did not have a boss bar, and yet the boss bar still showed up, so I think the Roka was actually a boss. While I was trying to figure this out, I had probably the closest call with death of the series. 1 heart left. I really recommend carrying around a water bucket because I did not do that. But in my defense, I really didn't think there was iron in the abyss, so there was just no way I could make a water bucket. I should probably start keeping the totem in my inventory now. While I'm here, I should mention that this forest biome is definitely the most dangerous biome. The soul guards are very hard to take down, and you will be constantly blinded. I searched for probably an hour for the next monolith, and almost missed it in a pool of water, but I caught a glimpse of it, and I broke it. It gave me a piece of paper, and this one was called number 49, the end of time. As if the other one wasn't creepy enough, this one was definitely end of the world vibes. I had all 3 pages, now I just needed to find the horn thing, but I didn't really know where to go looking. I had a feeling it was one of the bosses. I went back to the forest and I got the Roka boss bar again. Maybe the Roka was actually a boss. I went through the trees a bit and I actually saw something. It said level 10, the Roka. This was actually the boss that I've been looking for. It didn't charge me and I didn't even know if I was strong enough to take it down. I got a little closer, and I broke these fire plants because I did not want to catch on fire in an important situation like this. I was really close to him, but he did not attack me. I started swinging at him, and he still didn't charge me. It seemed like he was stuck in some sort of tree. So I completely took advantage of the situation. I wanted to see how much damage he did, so I let him hit me, and he only did 0.5 hearts. So I'm pretty sure this wasn't the Roka, the one that Steven was talking about. I took down the Roka boss, and he actually dropped the horn. That was the 4th element of the crafting recipe I needed. I picked it up, and it was called a Roka horn. I made the crafting recipe that Steven taught me. I put the 3 pieces of paper in, and it gave me some weird text. It was some sort of book, so I picked it up and read it, and all of a sudden my vision started going blurry, and it gave me a really weird message. It said 1 letter at 1, 1 letter at 3, 1 letter at 7, 1 letter at 9, and book in the middle. I tried waiting to see if the book would say anything else, but it just kept repeating that same message. But I think I had a genius idea about what the message meant. I think it was a crafting table, and 1 paper goes in the 1st slot, the 3rd slot, the 7th slot, and the 9th slot, and then you put the book in the middle. Maybe this was some sort of crafting recipe to fight the final boss. Who knows? Either way, I still need to find 4 more monoliths. I talked to Steven again to see if he had anything else for me, but he just had the same quest for me, so it looks like I was at the end of the line. It looks like I have to find 4 more pages and craft this mysterious recipe in day 6. In day 6, it was time to go to war with the phantoms. What I really needed was better armor, and the key to better armor was getting as many phantom souls as I could. Unfortunately, I take back what I said about the eyeball mobs. Phantoms had to be the most annoying mob to take down. I'll give you an example. This is what taking down a phantom should look like. Sneaking up, getting a few good hits, and getting the phantom soul, and you're done. This is what not to do, and that's charge it head on. And there's a few reasons why you don't do this. 1, they give you wither. 2, they give you slowness. 3, they give you hunger. And 4, well, they give you blindness. And they happen to be 10 blocks in the air. So all of those combined do not add up to a good experience. I went looking for more resources for my new armor, and I ended up unexpectedly finding another monolith, which was great because I didn't have any of the 4 I needed for the final boss. I just grabbed it and got out of there so I didn't have to deal with all of those mobs. But when I was leaving, I actually found the elder bosses for the first time. There were 2 of them and they were level 10, and he started charging me so fast. But he didn't do any damage. And what do you know, he was super easy to take down and didn't drop anything. So, very disappointing. So I took down the other one because they baited me so many times. This was just revenge for all the anticipation. I came across another tower, and to my surprise, there were actually iron blocks, and that was just what I needed for my new armor, so I decided to mine them all up. When I was leaving, I found one of those teleporting mobs shooting at me, but when I tried to attack it, he fled the scene yet again. Okay, it was time to really get working on my new armor. I got sand, which was perfect because I was going to need to smelt it for glass to make glass bottles. There were 2 very strong types of armor I was going for, and they were related to each other, and you'll see why. I went ahead and made the glass bottles. After, I used all the phantom souls I collected along with titan bones in the corner to make 1 phantom essence. I used this essence and surrounded it with 4 pieces of iron to get 1 phantom ingot. Now, fortunately for me, I already made unknown armor. All I had to do was put my armor in the crafting table with 1 phantom ingot, and I got a phantom chestplate which was much stronger. I put the chestplate on, and it looked very cool, but I wasn't stopping there. There was armor that was even stronger than phantom armor. I made another phantom ingot, but this time I wasn't going to use the ingot for armor. I used it with 6 more titan bones and got a unirith ingot. And now, I combined my phantom chestplate with the unirith ingot to get a unirith chestplate. This was the strongest chestplate in the game. The chestplate gave me permanent resistance effect. I went back to the phantom biome to get more titan bones. I just had to repeat this process 3 more times for every piece of armor. I made more phantom ingots and started working on making the leggings. I got the phantom leggings, crafted another unirith ingot, and finally used the unirith ingot to make unirith leggings. I accidentally dropped them, but after picking them up, I put them on, and I got permanent fire resistance. Very unfortunately, I had to get more phantom souls, and you already know what that meant. More rage-inducing events. So I'm just gonna let you all watch my suffering here. No commentary, only pain. That's all there is to see. Yeah, this one did not really go my way. Okay, but after an hour of hiding, I finally got 1 more phantom soul. I made unirith boots, and when I put them on, I got permanent speed. This was really good because that meant every armor piece had a different effect. So finally, I finished it off with making a unirith helmet. Except this time, it actually did not give me an effect, but it looked pretty cool. All I had to do now was search for 3 more pieces of paper, and I could spawn the end boss. I actually found the second one very close by, and I found it on the side of a hill. When I broke this one, I got an unknown letter. Surprisingly enough, in the same biome, I found the 3rd monolith. That meant I only needed to find 1 more monolith, and I could spawn the Roka end boss. Unfortunately, this one probably took me over an hour to find, but I got the message in chat saying there was energy nearby, but I just couldn't find it. I tried looking in the trees and everywhere on the ground, but the cows made it hard to see because they pretty much had the same texture. But eventually, I found it pretty sneakily wedged into the ground. I got the 4th monolith, and I went to crafting the final boss of the Abyss. I placed the 4 pieces of paper in each corner and placed the ancient book in the middle, and I got the Abyss end. This was most likely going to teleport me to the final boss Roka, and I was ready to fight him in day 7. Today was the final fight of the Abyss, and it was my way home. I wanted to make a pretty large enclosure for Roka because I didn't know how big he would be or if I would even be able to survive. Even though I had the strongest armor in the game, I don't know how strong Roka would be. For all I know, he's an ancient god and he's been around for thousands of years. He might even just insta-kill me in 1 shot, who knows. But anyways, I took out this crystal golem and decided to get rid of this elder boss because I didn't want any disruptions in our final fight. I put my totem in my offhand, and it was time to fight the final boss Roka. I placed the eye in the middle, and I got prompted with a chat. It was Roka. He said he's been trying to conquer the Abyss for 5,000 years, and he wanted to know if I'll help him or I'll kill him. But I knew what I was gonna do. I was gonna defeat him and go home. Unfortunately, he did not spawn in the box, but outside the box. Very bad start. I got really scared, so I ran into the box. I started swinging at him, and my sword barely did any damage, and he could still hit me through the box. I noticed these 2 knights spawned, Sylvia and Maramis. I don't know if they were gonna help me in the fight or not, but they weren't moving. I started casually chipping away at the Roka's health, but unfortunately, This cow had to be caught in the crossfire. I made a promise to the cow that his death wouldn't be in vain, and that I would honor him by taking down the Roka boss. I think I got tired of staying in the box, and I decided to be brave and go outside the box. Well, almost. I dug open the wall a bit more so I could hit him easily, but so far I think my armor was holding up because he wasn't doing more damage than half a heart. So I decided to just go for it and go outside the box and take him on one-on-one. Except I wasn't alone. Maramis and Sylvia started coming out of the box and attacking them. All three of us came together and formed a super team, and we were all attacking the Roka boss as one. This was an incredible story, something you see in the movies. Arguably a more intense fight than Avengers Endgame. However, the Roka boss started doing more damage and started letting out some disturbing screams. I think the screams started to give me nausea. But all three of us were standing strong against the Roka boss. The Roka started focusing on the knights instead of me, and I wasn't taking any damage. But I was worried. If the knights somehow died, would I be strong enough to take on the boss alone? I didn't have time to think about any negative thoughts like that. My only goal was to take down the Roka boss as fast as possible. I think I even started swinging at Maramis and Sylvia, but I mean, they won't remember, right? But then, tragedy hit. Maramis, no. Maramis got caught in the lightning, and he didn't make it. It was up to Sylvia and I to take down the Roka boss together, and we were gonna do it in the name of Maramis. I think the key thing that got me through this fight was the ring of regen. Anytime I would get remotely low, I would just use my ring, and I would heal up pretty quickly. The Roka boss was about to be dead. I got in a series of really good hits, and it was only a matter of time before I take down the Roka boss and I could finally go home. And then Sylvia landed the final hit. I picked up a new sword. It was called the Sword of the Abyss. The Roka also dropped some XP bottles and a music disc. Me and Sylvia actually did it. Wait a minute. Didn't Sylvia scam me earlier? Yeah, you know what? I think Sylvia did scam me. Alright, after taking care of that, I looked in the water and I saw a hammer. It was called the Hammer of the Abyss, and it was super slow, but it had 25 attack damage. After picking up the hammer, I think it was time to finally head home, and I think this monolith was the key. I went over, said a quick goodbye to the Abyss, and I clicked it. But all of a sudden, my vision went dark. After falling into the void with the Totem of Undying, I survive and wake up in a strange underground world. This is Minecraft The Undergarden Stories. I took a look around the new dimension. I really wasn't sure if this was a safe place or a dangerous place. But for my safety, I was gonna assume dangerous. I saw a little structure over there in the ice biome, and I looked at this new melon sort of thing. I punched at it, and I got a gloom gourd. I put it in my crafting inventory, and I got gloom gourd seeds. I was pretty sure I couldn't eat the seeds, so this served no use. I placed it back down and started punching wood, and I got Wigglewood. What an interesting name. While I was getting more of that, I found a troll? Something like that? I don't know if he was friendly, but so far he wasn't attacking me, so I just let him be. And I continued on my journey of picking up random mushrooms and flowers and seeing if I could eat them. I did what I do best and made some wooden tools, and I punched at these vines, and it ended up giving me droop vines that I could actually eat, and they only did half a hunger bar, so I was gonna need better food than that. They also made me glow, which was very concerning. But then I found a new plant, and they gave me beans. I didn't have a chance to eat them, but given that beans actually sounded like food, I was pretty hopeful. I found a new stone called depth rock. I mined a bit more and made some tools with it, and it just gave me regular stone tools, which I wasn't complaining about. I took a stab at mining this ice block, and this was called shiverstone, but I tried making tools with it, and it also gave me stone tools. I went over to the edge of the cliff and I saw some sort of structure, and it seemed pretty big, but I did not want to go exploring. I went back and found the ice biome, but when I got there, there was a golem looking thing standing in the middle of the snow. I wanted no trouble with him, so I just decided to sneak around and see what I could do. There was also a little guy, which he didn't seem that harmful, but you can never tell nowadays, so stay safe. I went over and found my first type of ore. I mined it and I got regular coal, which was actually good, but I went over to the other one and I mined it and I got frost steel ore, which seemed really good. I don't know why it seemed really good, but it just had a good ring to it. I mined a lot more of this, considering I could smelt it, and I came back and I got a frost steel ingot. I looked around the cave though, and there seemed to be a lot of it, so I wasn't really sure if it was good or not, but I found a new ore at the bottom, so I went and grabbed it. I picked up this new ore and it was called Clogram ore. Some interesting names here. I went and crafted a frost steel pickaxe. It did more damage than my stone pickaxe, so I was guessing it was better. I smelted the clawgrum ore and I got an achievement. I tried making a sword with it and it actually turned out really strong, but it said it had low durability, so I did not craft it. I decided to save it for now. I left the cave for about 5 seconds and I came back and there was some enderman looking thing in my cave. I just got that vibe that he wasn't friendly. I crafted a frost steel chestplate, which seemed like it protected me a lot, but it also said minus 5% speed, which I was a little concerned about. But I crafted a frost steel sword and it said it slows targets, and that was enough for me. I played around with clawgrum boots and they seemed like a little worse than the frost steel armor, so I held off on it for now. I did start to recognize that this frost steel armor was slowing me down a bit, but I wanted to see if every armor piece did the same thing. And sure enough, I put on every piece and I went very slow. But it was enough to protect me. I tried making a clawgrum chestplate and I just didn't like the way it looked, so you know, sometimes you have to have a fashion sense too, so I wanted everything to match. I was just about to get going and I found this golem thing in the corner. So far he did not charge me, but he was eyeing me. I went over to give him a hug to see what happened, and he didn't like that, and he started attacking me. So I hit him with my frost steel sword and it seemed like it slowed him down a bit. And I took him down and he dropped something. It was called a etheric shard. I probably needed more though because I couldn't find any crafts for it. I traveled through the snow biome until I came across the structure that I originally saw from up at my spawn point. I started mining the stone and it was just different forms of depth rock. But after mining the bars and I went inside, I got an achievement and it said I entered the catacombs, which was very scary and I did not want to do that. I decided to take out more of these golem things because I wanted to see what these shards did. I got the medium-sized one and he was very easy to take down and it seemed like my sword pretty much stunned him. And after the little one came in to try to take me down, but the attempt was very unsuccessful and I ended up getting an achievement called birth control. Yeah, that's a little concerning. But anyways, I used 4 of the shards to make 1 eutherium chunk. I found a cave and I saw a new orange ore, but I saw something that looked like a mob. I couldn't really tell from up there. And when I got down, I started hearing some strange bat-like noises. And yeah, this was definitely some sort of bat dog thing, and he wasn't friendly. I could tell you that. This new ore turned out to be eutherium chunks, so I got more of those and I came across a troll, and yeah, I left. Was not gonna die by a troll today. I found a purple liquid deep in the caves, but I did not want to go that far down yet, so I decided to leave the caves. I put 9 eutherium chunks into a crafting table and I got 1 eutherium ingot, which definitely made better armor and weapons, so that was the goal. After leaving, I came upon this giant lake and there were definitely fish in there. Maybe that could be another source of food, I don't know. I decided to man up and take on the troll. Except, the strangest thing happened, he did not attack me. Instead, he was a trader. What do you know? I didn't have anything to trade, but he was very nice. There were definitely a lot of things I did not understand about this dimension, and I kept hearing bird sounds and I couldn't see any birds, but I found a new mushroom biome and I was gonna go exploring there in day 2. In day 2, it was time to go exploring new biomes. I saw a new mushroom biome over there and there was some purple liquid that looked really interesting, so I decided to head in that direction. While I made my way over there, I came across some very interesting looking creature. He didn't move or attack me, so I just kind of gave him a headbutt, and he seemed really friendly, so I think we really had a bond here. But ultimately, I had to say goodbye. I found some new looking green trees, so I decided to mine the stem. These trees were apparently called grongle trees, or grongle stems. They just made regular wood stuff, and the leaves dropped gronglets, which I couldn't find any use for. I got closer to the mushroom biome, and then I came upon this other creature with horns. We just kind of had a staring contest, and I decided to give him a fat smooch, and then we parted ways. So far, most of those guys were friendly. I noticed the purple liquid traveled very fast, and I really wanted to figure out what it did. So I launched a test experiment, and it turns out it was poison. And for some reason, I tried jumping in the water, thinking it would somehow cure my poison. I don't know why I did that, but it definitely didn't work. So yeah, take notes people, don't do that. I found this block that looked like a cherry, so I mined it thinking it would be food, but it turns out it was just a blood mushroom and it only gave me red dye. I wanted to take a swim to see what was up down here, and I found this golden kelp. This was known as glitter kelp. I didn't find any use for it, but it looked really cool. While I was swimming, I found a huge system of catacombs. This structure looked ginormous, and I didn't have any plans on going inside, but it was right here, so I decided to take a peek. When I got in, the hallways were very narrow, and I found a troll. I checked to see what he had to offer. Most of them involved regalium ore, which I did not have any of, but he also traded for a clawgrum battle axe. Maybe I could make it? I don't know. Anyways, I wasn't really vibing with how narrow the hallways were, and I was getting a little sketched out, so I decided to leave. It was time to go mining, and I found a couple new mobs. The small golden one was very annoying, and he only threw pebbles at me. And this other one with a ginormous mouth started eating blocks in front of me. I determined I was protected enough to take on this bat dog thing, and they were very fast. They made some really interesting / disturbing noises, but eventually I took it down, and it didn't drop anything. And I didn't like how this golem thing was staring at me, so I had to take him down too. Sorry, man. Don't worry, his eutherium would go to a better use. I spent a lot of time mining all the eutheric shards I could find, but you needed a lot to make an ingot. Next to a poison pool, I found a new type of gold ore. I was already assuming this was regalium, and I was right. I only got 2 ore, but hopefully I could at least make a sword or something. After mining almost a stack of eutheric shards, it only gave me 6 ingots. And then I got jump scared by this bat dog thing. And another, I don't even know what to call that thing. It doesn't matter what the name was, they were going to be taken down anyways. It was time to get mining for more eutherium. I found a troll in one of these caves, and he traded a ton of regalium for a music disc, which I did not have. My pickaxe was running out, so I decided to use 3 of my eutherium ingots to make a new eutherium pickaxe. This was a little faster than my frost steel pickaxe. While I worked on finding a new cave, I smelted my regalium and tried making a sword because I only had 2 ingots, but unfortunately, there weren't any regalium tools. I was guessing regalium was sort of like emeralds. Apparently, I got a new achievement for exploring every cave biome. After a long time of mining almost 2 stacks of eutheric shards, I only got 15 ingots, so I decided to make a chestplate and a pair of leggings. This armor was much better than my frost steel armor, and it didn't slow me down, so I got rid of those. So you know how you're not supposed to fall in lava? Well, I fell in poison. I don't know how there happened to be 1 block open for me just to fall in, but it was there, so there's a helpful tip for you all, always watch your step. Hopefully in day 3, I can survive the undergarden and explore more of this new dimension. In day 3, it was time to go looking for the catacombs. I went out of my cave, and while I was climbing up, I found this slug thing, and I took it down, and apparently I'm a terrible person. Sorry. I went into the cave, and I found the entrance to the catacombs. Well, not really the entrance, so I just kind of dug my way into the side. When I got inside, the hallways were very narrow, but I saw something I've never seen before. It was a chest room with a spawner on it. I went over and broke the spawner, and unfortunately, I had to fight off a bunch of little kids. Man, today just wasn't my day. I was a terrible person. But anyways, when I opened the chest, I got some gloomgourd pies. Hopefully that was a better source of food. Some of the other chests had random enchanted items with unbreaking. Nothing too special though. I found a lot of chest rooms, but most of them ended up having the same thing. A lot of food, random nuggets, and a couple items with silk touch on them. The structure I found was relatively small, so I went searching for another one, and I found a different one in the snow biome. I was really hoping they would have different loot. And well, my prayers were answered. I turned the corner, and I found this giant golem thing that started attacking me. I didn't even want to know how much damage this thing did, so I just blocked it off and started taking it down. And let's just say this thing took me a good amount of time to take down. Constantly critical hitting it, and it took me probably 30 seconds. I was starting to think I couldn't even take it down at all, but eventually I got an achievement called Decommissioned, and I got some forgotten nuggets. I went searching for more, and sure enough, they appeared around the corners in these little niches. It turns out, even after blocking them off, they could still hit me through the blocks, and they did a good amount of damage, about a heart and a half with all my armor. After another century of hitting this one, I took it down, but unfortunately, I didn't have enough nuggets to make possibly an ingot, so I found a third one right behind me, and I took this one down too. This one dropped over 10 forgotten nuggets, and unfortunately, I had to take down the kid too. I made 2 forgotten ingots. But at the end, it was all a big letdown because I couldn't even make any weapons with it, but I still got an achievement. Maybe there was something else I could do with them, I really didn't know. Okay, this is a side note. This mod actually isn't too extensive and it doesn't have much of a storyline. The mod seems very new though, and I think they're still developing more and more each day. but I think my time here in the undergarden was coming to an end and I had to go home. It was time to finally go back to the overworld in day 4. In day 4, I actually traveled towards the top of the map and I found a lot of new ores, a lot of regalium on the ceiling, so this is where it was all located apparently. But I found a different shiny blue ore, so I built up to it so I could mine it. I started mining it and it gave me regular diamonds. Wait a minute, this gave me a theory. If there were diamonds closer to the ceiling, did that mean I was under the overworld? Maybe the undergarden was just thousands of blocks under the overworld and all I had to do was mine up. But before I could do that, I had to pay a visit to some friends, some of my ogre friends. I didn't want to leave without a proper trade, and I wanted to give them some of my currency. I made some more regalium ingots because I know these guys loved it and I looked for a trade. Most of these guys had some pretty high prices, but this other guy had a pretty good trade for me, so I gave him some regalium and we engaged in a nice business deal. Thank you for your time, and I hope you succeed in life. I gave him a nod goodbye, and I looked to the ceiling to go mining. It was time to go home. I can't believe after all I've been through, the Aether, the Abyss, and now the Undergarden, feels like I can never catch a break. After mining what seemed like for years, I actually hit dirt. Could this be it? Could this be the overworld? I mined up, and my head popped out, and I saw grass and real trees. Was this it? Was this really the overworld? I couldn't believe it. After being trapped in different dimensions for years, I was finally gonna go home. Oh! I woke up in my bed, in my real bed, back at my village. Somehow, I was crushed by a random anvil, and I lost all my stuff, but I'm back in my home village, and that's all that mattered. After weeks of being trapped, I could finally be free. Wait, what is this? Why is this behind my house? Did the villagers do this? What's going on here? Why is there a diamond in a chest? So does anyone know what this is? Or what I should do? So I messed up, and I jumped in this portal, and now I'm stuck in this strange dimension. This is Minecraft stranded in the Twilight Forest. Well, stranded in a dimension yet again, so you know what this means. We're gonna start punching some trees. We got a wooden pickaxe, upgraded to stone, and while I was chopping wood, I accidentally hit a firefly off the tree. I tried eating it, but I couldn't eat it. Why couldn't I eat it? Look, these sheep looked really cool, but I'll be honest, the taste of meat sounded really good right about now. So I had to do what had to be done. I apologize to all of their families. It's okay though, because their sacrifices were put to a great use, and now I made a bed. I found these pigs, I think, and yeah, I'm sorry, I had to take these down too. You know, I will say part of me did feel a little bad, but once again, meat sounded really good. I popped those bad boys in a furnace, and now I had a good amount of food. Alright, the real question is what happens when I sleep in the Twilight Forest? And the answer would be nothing. Yep, it was still very dark out. I found these deer. Don't worry, I did not attack the deer. Come on, you really don't think that low of me, do you? I found a ravine, and I saw bedrock at the bottom, which means the caves weren't that deep. I was mining some iron, and this guy with a pickaxe came. Maybe he was gonna help me mine. Hey, can you help me mine this, please? Yo! Wow, okay. So, I'm not trusting that guy ever again. This guy just took half of my health. Oh no, that's a mini spider. I'm not doing that. Okay, the mini spider decided to throw himself off a cliff, so I guess I'm safe from that. It is very disturbing though. I don't like spiders. I built a little bridge across the ravine, and I wanted to get some more iron. I ended up finding a regular zombie. Hold on. Was this a regular zombie? Okay. It was a regular zombie. Good. You can never be too sure when you're in a different dimension. I got 4 iron, and I made a bucket because you always need a water bucket. And I saw our little friend down at the bottom of the ravine. Yeah, he wasn't getting me anytime soon. I just can't believe there was a time when I actually trusted him to mine my iron. And he decided to betray me. That's cool. What is that? I don't want to know what that is. Okay, other than not knowing what that mob is, look at all the ores over there. That is really weird. Alright, it was upgrade time. I made an iron pick and an iron sword, so I was a little... Oh, what is that? Oh, Lord. I gotta get out of here. Okay, so after blocking myself in at the end of day 1, we are on to day 2. And hopefully that thing is not there, and it seems to be gone. So, let's try to get out of here. I found a little troll man at the end of the ravine. I think he looked friendly, I don't know. I can't really tell nowadays. I mean, the miner looked friendly and, he just attacked me, so. I decided to get out of the ravine, and these crows were staring at me. I didn't like the way they were looking at me, but anyways, I decided to get wood and start building a house. I found a plains biome, and this looked like a great spot for my house. I'll just set up camp right here in the middle of the plains, and let's dump all my stuff into this chest first, and then we'll start building our house. Alright, I really liked the way this wood looked, so I was gonna make my house out of this. And there's the first step. You always have to start with some pillars. Alright, we kind of have the general shape going. I just kind of filled it in with wood, made a little square. I found this ravine, and I went to the end to get some more iron. But I found something interesting. I saw a chest way back there in the cave, but as soon as I saw the mini spider, nope, I dipped. I was just looking for sand so I could get glass for my house, and I came across this already built house, and there was a spawner on the inside, which I didn't like. I had no armor, so I really didn't want to be getting into any fights, especially ones I couldn't win. And I found sand, and then I found a huge temple, or whatever that was. So, yeah, if I wasn't going to do the house, I wasn't going to do that. The rule of thumb for pretty much any new dimension is always assume things are more dangerous than they seem. I returned back with my sand, and I started making all of my glass. I made canopy wood doors, and apparently they did not want to show up in my inventory as regular blocks. I had to get rid of this one. I really didn't want to look at it anymore. The untextured block was being buried. Alright, now it was time for the really hard part, and that was making a roof for my house. I am no experienced builder, so making a roof was going to be pretty hard for me, but after spending too long on it, I think I got the general shape down. But there was something I wanted. I wanted purple flowers because I wanted purple windows. I came across this new wood called mangrove wood, and it actually looked really cool. But I didn't really feel like switching up my house now, so maybe I'd come back to it later. I found a dark forest. I mean, there had to be some flowers in there, right? Oh, what is this? Is this lightning? What is this? Oh, no. I'm not doing black. Oh, no. Okay, so the trolls attack you with books. That's great. Great to know. Okay, no purple flowers, but I came upon a genius idea. I found a lapis block, and if I could make lapis with red, then I could get purple dye. Plan successful. I now had purple glass for my house. This was about to look amazing. I mean, if I was stuck in the twilight forest, I might as well spend time making a nice looking house, right? I really think the journey for the purple glass was worth it. It looked really nice on this house. I added a little planter out in the front of my house, but overall, we still had some touching up to do. But we would get it done in day 3. Okay, we have to finish off this roof, the hardest part. But, actually, it didn't turn out too bad. I think this looks pretty good. We actually had a sort of a house formation going. But, of course, no house is complete without a backyard, so we had to make a bangin' backyard. A little on the small side, but it will do. I added fireflies just because I felt bad for trying to eat them earlier. I might as well honor them by putting them on my house. Little decoration. I was about to go exploring, but then I remembered one thing. I needed flowers for the front of my house. This was absolutely necessary. Boom, house kind of complete. I started off my adventure with taking down this baby slime. And no, I did not feel bad about it. Maybe I could finally get the chest in this cave? Hopefully there weren't many mobs. Okay, so this is exactly what I did not want. That is a lot of mobs. Oh, and the witch slowed me. Okay, time to leave. I found a ravine, and believe it or not, I found diamonds from the surface. I had to jump on down for those. Also, are we gonna ignore how cool that tree looked growing out of the side of the ravine? I really liked the way that looked. I got to the diamonds, but these troll things were looking at me. I didn't like that. But I started mining them, and this was probably the biggest diamond vein I have ever seen. Alright, I'm sure there's bigger ones, but still. This vein gave me 9 diamonds, which was more than enough to start off with. I wanted revenge on the trolls for smacking me with the book, so I went on over there and I took him down with my sword. GG's, buddy. Except I think his friends got mad. Oh, no, 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 no. No, not doing that. Man, these guys come out of nowhere. It's okay though, took them down in one swing. I decided to get a ton of iron. I had no armor and I was in a dangerous dimension, so those two things did not go well together. I made an iron chestplate and I got the achievement, Suit Up. After getting iron pants, I decided to go searching in the caves for a bit while my iron smelted. I found more trolls, and it was time to fight him. I even made this one cry. Yeah, it's okay, I didn't feel bad. Looks like your buddy shouldn't have hit me with a book. All of this could have been avoided. I finally made an iron helmet and iron boots, and I was well protected. Or at least I think so. But this time, it was time to check out the house. Now that I had iron armor, I decided to take on whatever this thing was. It started shooting at me, it even broke its own door. Hey, I mean, it's his house, it's not my loss. I started swinging around him, trying not to get hit, but eventually he did hit me, and it did very fast poison damage. But I took him down, I broke in, and I broke the spawner. I didn't even realize there was a chest here, and I opened it, and we got some milk. Very nice. But we also got glistering melons and a lot of potatoes. But this gave me a great idea. It was time to become a potato farmer. Now that I could grow my own food, I didn't have to take down any of the animals anymore. It's a win-win for everyone. We were definitely going to need to expand our farm though. It's only been 3 days, but I think we're going to survive. Alright, day 5, I was going to make some diamond pants and a diamond sword, and I had the mission of going into that cave and finding out what were in those chests. I'm going to give you a spoiler now, it was not pretty. And this is just a snippet of what happened. Mobs were literally coming out from left and right, and I had no clue where they were coming from. Literally hundreds. And this didn't even account for all the minions. Oh, they started coming alright. Look at all of them. I swear, after this series is done, I will find their homes and I will torture all of them. It took around 20 minutes for me to finally clear out enough of the cave so I can just make a dive for the chest. I smacked this little miner dude and I opened the chest and I got some weird powder and an ore magnet. It turns out this wasn't the only chest in the area though. I opened a chest and I got ironwood ingots and a naga scale. Whatever that did, but I got an achievement for it. And I opened a third one and I got an uncrafting table. I brought all the stuff back home and I was playing around with this magnet. I couldn't get it to do anything until I brought up some iron and some gold, but it broke after 2 uses. Alright, let's see what this uncrafting table is. I put my diamond sword into it and it looked like it showed the recipe, but there was a red box around only one of the diamonds. I was trying to figure this out. I put a stone hoe in and I placed one of the cobblestones and it seemed like it returned a fully repaired version for only 1 cobblestone. Seemed pretty cool. I went ahead and used my new ingots to craft an ironwood pickaxe, which was the same as an iron pickaxe except it had efficiency 1 on it. It was time to go exploring and I found a maze. It seemed pretty small and it was only 3 blocks high, so I mean, you know what to do, I'm just gonna climb on top of it. Except it didn't let me do that. It seemed like the maze damaged me if I went on top of it, and even when I tried mining it. I tried testing out to see if I could even break it, and I took a lot of damage, but I ended up breaking it and getting nothing. I decided to just go through the main entrance. As I was working my way through, I heard growling noises. Oh, no. That is a very fast wolf. We are breaking that spawner right now. Let's see what we got in this chest. Okay, melon seeds. Nice. I found a few more spots in the maze where there were wolf spawners and a chest. Except this time I took down the wolf without getting hit. I opened the chest and I still got nothing. Except I found a new bigger room. This one had a double chest and it spawned regular spiders. Well, not exactly regular. I mean, they were green, but I mean, pretty close enough to regular. The single chest still gave me nothing, but the double chest gave me a diamond hoe. That was so worth it. Okay, so it seems like that's all the maze had to offer. I was exploring more and I found a spooky looking biome. It was orange and there was a lot of cobwebs in the trees. I took a step in and my vision went purple. I started getting bad vibes when I found a graveyard and there were spawners. I did not want to know what the spawners actually spawned, so I broke them before I could find out. I left the spooky biome and I found a snow biome. For some reason I could not see at all, and then I realized it was because I was completely frozen over. In day 7, I found myself exploring a new house, except this time there was a double chest which had nothing. But when I broke the spawner, I found a secret trap door into a basement room. Look, I don't care what was down there, but if you find a secret trap door, I mean, it's pretty much implied that you have to go down. I saw a double chest at the end of the room, but I could see by the markings that it was a trapped double chest. So I built up just to make sure I didn't fall in any trap. I broke the blocks above it and I opened it, but there was only a lot of food. but I could use a lot of food. Alright, this one was actually crazy. I found a mushroom biome, and when I went through the forest, I found an absolutely massive mushroom kingdom. This was the first time seeing anything this big on this world. I needed to figure out what was in here. I tried digging through the pillars, but there was nothing inside. I found a room and I went inside, but it looked like it was completely abandoned, so I moved on. And what do you know, I think I found an even bigger maze. This time I went up and just tried digging through the side. Except this time, this was no simple maze. I saw the boss bar called the Naga pop up on my screen and I knew I was about to fight a boss. Except he literally came at me right as I came in. It was a ginormous serpent. The Naga was going through all of the blocks in the maze and just destroying anything in its path. I tried swinging at it, but it seemed like it only took damage if I hit the head, and it kept charging me head on. By now, I had done so little damage and I was already almost at half health. I don't even know if I could beat it. Except, when I held my shield out and he charged me, it stunned him. Looks like I had to keep making him charge against my shield and I needed to keep stunning him so I could keep hitting his head. So I kept waiting for the perfect time to do that. I found another time and I bonked him. I went over as fast as I could and started swinging, but he was only stunned for a few seconds. I was gonna need to do a lot more bonking. Except over time, it seemed like he was getting less aggressive, and he was also getting smaller. I found it easier to hit his head, and I kept draining his health. Eventually, I got him super low, and he turned really small, and he became very fast. But I landed the final hit, and I defeated the Naga boss. I got a good amount of XP, and it seemed like it dropped a Naga head. Actually, it was the Naga trophy. It also dropped more Naga scales, and I figured out that I could make a chestplate out of it. When I made it, it already came with Fire Protection 3. This was my first boss takedown, and it's safe to say that I'm not going to do it again. In day 10, it was time to upgrade my armor and my weapons. I put sharpness 1 on my diamond sword, and I enchanted all of my new diamond armor. I was afraid that most of the bosses in this world were gonna be really tough to take down, and I was probably gonna need more protection. I made a new diamond pick, and I headed on over to the first swamp biome I found. But when I stepped inside, there was these weird particles floating around, and it seemed like it gave me hunger. But that's when I remembered I found a book when I went into the swamp. It was called Notes on the Swamp Labyrinth. I opened it up. It seemed like the story was saying that there was some curse causing me to get hunger in the swamp and I needed to defeat a wizard. The book said if I defeated the wizard, the curse would be lifted. And they told me to go to a place with pointy towers. And that was definitely this castle. I had a feeling I was about to run into another boss. I couldn't find an entrance, so you know what that means. We're breaking in right into the side. Seems like I found myself a bookshelf room, and I got inside, and it seems like there's multiple rooms to this book room. I found a chest at the top, and it gave me a regeneration potion. I went into the main room, and there was a giant staircase along with a few mobs waiting for me. I just had a feeling I was gonna have to go right to the top. I went up a little and I found the skeleton spawner, which was making all of the skeletons spawn, and then they started all attacking each other. I went up another level and I broke a mini spider spawner. There were all these little side rooms, and when I went in one, I got more potions. I also got this charm of life, but I did not know what that did. At last, I think I came to the top. There was a spawner, but I couldn't see what it was spawning. I went up and I triggered the boss spawn. It was called the Twilight Lich. It seemed like some king wizard skeleton thing. The king spawned more enemies and it started teleporting around me. I couldn't hit it at all as long as they had these shield things. But then he threw a fireball at me and it actually exploded him. He was already at half health and I didn't even hit him once. It seemed like his own fireballs would hurt him, so I waited to deflect them, and when they threw ender pearls at me, it somehow broke his shield and got rid of his minions, except he spawned a lot of zombies on me. I started having trouble fending off all of these zombies while he was throwing fireballs at me. He even threw pearls that spawned baby zombies that were very annoying. At first I thought I was doing pretty good, except then I started getting cornered by more and more mobs and I started taking more damage. I wasn't terribly low though, and I was still surviving, until he threw a fireball, and he started charging me. The king ran at me head on, and he started doing a ton of damage. I needed to retreat. I went down the staircase, and I blocked myself off. I just needed a little time to eat and heal up a little bit. I had a plan though. I had the fire resistance potion and a regeneration potion. I drank the fire resistance and I was going to drink the regen and go back in there. I only had 22 seconds of regeneration, so I needed to do whatever I needed to do fast. I tried attacking the king as fast as I could. I ended up hitting the king into the wall and I got crazy good hits on it. I ended up taking down the king in about 5 seconds. I got an achievement and I successfully defeated my second boss. I got a lot of gold armor that was pretty good, but I didn't need it, and I got the Twilight Lich trophy. So far, I had 2 trophies down and probably a few to go. Then I noticed in my inventory I picked up the Scepter of Twilight. It ended up throwing out ender pearls, and it said I only had 98 charges left. so I decided to save it. When I was leaving, I found a chest and I got a power 3 punch 1 bow, so you should always check all the little rooms. I went back to the swamp and sure enough, the curse was lifted. Now, we had to explore the swamp. In day 15, I found an interesting looking rainbow forest. The trees looked amazing and I saw a structure up ahead, so I went running over to see what it was. When I got there, it looked like some sort of shrine, and when I went to the middle, there was a ginormous sheep just standing in the middle. And he started teleporting a little bit. I did what normal people would do and I tried riding him, but that did not work. There was a dispenser at the top of the shrine, so I started clicking the button and it dispensed random colored wool. I kept clicking it and it seemed to dispense about 3 or 4 pieces, but then it stopped. I assumed the wool was for the big sheep, so I went over to him and I started giving it to him. And sure enough, he took it. When I gave it to him, he grew a little bit longer, so I went and grabbed the other pieces. Each new colored wool I gave him added on another stripe of that color, so I gave him every colored wool I had on me, but unfortunately, he didn't take repeats. I tried giving him 2 oranges, but he only took 1 of them. It looked like I needed to get every single color. I already had a good amount of colors on me, maybe 9 or 10 already, but there were 16 colors that I needed to get, and some of them were pretty hard to come by. I went back to searching in the forest for maybe some different colored sheep, and I found a gray one who made a worthy sacrifice. So far I had 10, but I needed 6 more. I found a red sheep. You know, I could have gone for a red flower since they were everywhere, but unfortunately the sheep was just right there and I had to do it. In my defense, I found the white sheep after, so I actually couldn't make the red wool before. I gave him a magenta colored wool and it looked like I still needed 1 more blue color, and I think I needed bones to come by that. Fortunately, I knew just the place to go. I found one of these houses nearby and I took down one of these poison skeletons for a couple bones and made some bone meal. So from here, I used bone meal and lapis to make light blue dye, which I think was the last blue I needed, except it actually wasn't, but I ended up finding a cyan colored sheep. So now I had the last blue color. The last one I was missing was really easy and it was yellow. I gave the sheep the last color and he started glowing rainbows, and he spit out a bunch of resources. He dropped a block of diamond, iron, gold, lapis, and emerald. So this is what happens when you treat the sheep right. Let's ignore the fact that I had to sacrifice a couple of the regular sheep. It turns out this ginormous sheep was actually called the questing ram. I noticed in my inventory I got this thing called the crumble horn. I started clicking on it and it broke a ton of blocks around me. It was some sort of warrior sheep cry calling thing. Yeah, I don't know what exactly that did. But we had 3 trophies and it was time to go back to the swamp. In day 17, I found my way back to the swamp and I think I found what I was looking for. I found a hill and on the inside was some weird dungeon. If there was one thing that I did not like, it was underground dungeons, but you know what had to be done. I went on down and decided to face my fears. It did take me a little while to convince myself to drop all the way. I had to kind of check around and make sure the coast was clear, but so far I didn't see anything. And unfortunately, this did seem like a maze. I thought I was clear until I turned the corner and I found this weird cow thing that charged me. I took him down pretty easily though after he charged me, and he dropped this thing called meat, which I actually ate right after, which is kind of weird now that I'm thinking about it. Look, I don't know if this exactly counts as cannibalism because he's half cow. I don't really know what the verdict on that is. But anyways, one of these dropped a golden minotaur axe, so it looks like I was fighting minotaurs. In a couple of these rooms, I found double chests behind iron bars, but they didn't give that great of loot. Only a couple of these things called steel leaves. However, one of these chests gave me something called a maze wafer. I don't know why the maze had wafers, but it seemed pretty tasty. I found another bigger room with a few locked up chests and a minotaur spawner. I broke the spawner before I had to get into any more trouble, but unfortunately, that didn't exactly go to plan because they started coming by larger numbers around the corner. It seemed like the minotaurs, when they stood far away from you, started charging up and then ran at you with a powerful attack, but when they got close to you, they were pretty easy to take down, except when you had like 5 of them on you. I had an uneasy feeling about all of these minotaurs. I just had a feeling that eventually I would run into some sort of giant minotaur boss. It kind of seemed to be leading there. It also turns out that if you just sidestep the minotaur, he will just run into a wall. I went back to the main room and broke open the chests. Except the loot still wasn't that special, except I did get a lot of maze wafers, and maze wafers kinda slapped. I found a room that led me even deeper into the maze, and this time I just jumped on down. I found a corridor that had mushrooms growing out of it, so I'd assume that's the way I needed to go. I found a new type of bug around the corner, and this time the bug picked me up and I just started swinging at it while I was on its back. and I took it down pretty easily. The maze took me a long time to navigate, but fortunately I had my maze wafers. I tried following the mushrooms though, and at last, I think I came upon the boss room. I saw a room blocked off by fences, and when I went up, it spawned some sort of mushroom minotaur hybrid. Was this the boss? I tried breaking in and hitting him, and he could still hit me through the wall, and he did a good amount of damage. But who am I kidding? I had a power 3 bow. Always think outside the box, people. I thought he was about to charge me and break open the fence, but fortunately he did not break it, and I just took him down pretty easily with my bow. I went inside expecting there to be more mobs, but fortunately we were good. I started sorting through all the loot. I picked up a bunch of these meat stroganoffs, and I got the minnow shroom trophy, so I guess that was the minnow shroom. I also picked up a diamond minotaur axe, which did a good amount of damage compared to my sharpness diamond sword. It said I could charge with it, but I couldn't really figure out how to do that. After defeating the minnow shroom, I went to see if I could try to get back into this fiery swamp, but unfortunately, there was still some sort of spell. Except I killed one of these minion guys, and he dropped a book about the fire swamp. The book said the curse should be lifted, so I brought the only thing I got from the minnow shroom, and that was the meat stroganoff. I tried drinking it, and at first I thought it didn't work, but then the fire stopped, and the curse was lifted. And here's where things get a little crazy. I found a hydra boss bar, and I started hearing explosions. This did not sound good, and I was very scared as to what this was. I walked around the corner, and I found a giant 3-headed dragon spitting fire. Okay, there was just no way we were going to be able to take down the Hydra today, but I could admire from afar. You know, I didn't have anything against the Hydra until he did this. No! It was day 20 and I got some diamond armor and decided to go back to the dark forest to see if the curse really was lifted. I snuck on in and I did not get blindness anymore. And I found this cute little squirrel. Right at the edge of the forest, I found some sort of temple. As if I didn't spend enough time underground already, it did look like this dungeon went underground. Oh man, the Twilight Forest just loves spoiling me. I found this weird gate looking thing, but I couldn't mine it. But there was some sort of pedestal right next to it, and that gave me an idea. I looked at all the trophies I had in my inventory, and I assumed I should put the minnow shroom trophy on the pedestal. So I took it out and I placed it on the pedestal, and sure enough, it opened the door. I heard a troll laughing from down there, so you know I had to go down and take him down. We don't like the trolls. Except this time when I jumped down, I didn't find a troll, but I found a little knight, and he was spinning a ball that was just hitting me from midair. I took him down, and I got an armor shard. This was definitely an interesting looking dungeon. I found another room, and there was this guy. I don't even know if he had arms or not. It was like his arms were coming out of his stomach, but he was very tiny, and I just took down a bunch of them. And of course I found more trolls. I had to get rid of all of them. We do not tolerate trolls around here. I did it for the good of humanity. I found this weird crab fish thing, and I found a chest that gave me a power 3 infinity bow. I will definitely take that. The loot was definitely better in this dungeon because I opened a chest and got a sharpness 4 book. I was about to equip that right away until this giant knight came around the corner. I hit him from the back, no pun intended, and he kind of just bent over. I probably could have used better word choices, but either way, I took him down and it looked like he was just another one of those little guys that had a giant armor suit on. Anyways, I made a sharpness 4 diamond sword, so now I was very protected. I found this new room that was blocked off by 2 layers of gates. I dug my way in, and the spawner turned into like 6 of these floating phantom things. They all had armor on and swords. One of the bigger ones in the middle started throwing out a bunch of tools at me. None of them hit me so far though, so I think I was good. I started taking them out one by one, but all of them did a pretty good amount of damage, and they kind of floated away from me too. I was smacking them quite a bit, and I had a sharpness 4 diamond sword, so these things must have had quite a bit of health. But finally, I ended up taking one of them down, so there were only 5 to go. I tried taking down the one with legs, but he started throwing a ton of tools at me, and I got so close to dying. I ate a golden apple, and I regen back to full. It seemed like every time he was throwing tools at me, I couldn't hit him. He was invincible. But after a long fight, I ended up taking all of them down, and when I got the last one, I got an achievement. And what do you know, the phantom looking thing dropped a phantom plate. It seemed a little better than diamond armor, but when I opened the chest in the middle, I got very good phantom chest plates. I'm talking protection 3 mending here. There were also these knightly sword and axes that seemed pretty good, but there was also this knight phantom trophy. I now had 5 trophies, and I still had a long way to go in the Twilight Forest. In day 21, I ventured deeper into the dark forest. There was definitely more to be found. Sure enough, when I went deeper into the heart of the forest, I found these red trees, and I saw a little structure. Yeah, at least I thought it was a little structure until I looked up, and this happened to be the biggest tower I have ever seen. This was gonna be an interesting journey, I could already tell. I found these weird looking blocks which looked like the entrance, and I clicked on it, and the blocks just started disappearing. And then they reappeared after a few seconds. Pretty cool. I wondered if I could get them after the dungeon. I went on through all of the doors, and I found myself in the first floor of this ginormous dungeon. So far on the first floor, nothing special, just a little fire. On the next couple floors, there was nothing but bookshelves and a few dispensers and brewing stands. So far, nothing that really wanted to kill me, so that was good. Well, until I found these mini ghasts that kinda started shooting at me, but I took them down before they could do anything. They didn't have much health, so it was pretty easy. I had a feeling I was gonna start seeing a lot more mobs, considering this was only the 3rd floor, and the dungeon looked insanely big. I let this creeper blow the skeleton into outer space, and I went up to the 4th floor, and I saw a different looking room. There were some witches and this weird golem thing at the bottom. I tried taking out the witch before I could take out the golem. Unfortunately, the golem seemed like it had the same mechanics as an iron golem, and it was hard to take it down without me getting hit. I decided to build up, and there was another one, so I built up even higher. When I got a little higher, I figured out that there was a spawner, so that was pretty much where all the mobs were coming from. I took out both of the golems, and they dropped a few iron. I looked up, and I still had a long way to go, and I had to kind of build over these wood logs, just hoping I wouldn't fall through. One fall, and it was pretty much over. I got a little higher, and it seemed like the rooms were becoming more nether themed. I heard blazes, so I went up to the next floor, and I took out a few of them. Of course, I went to mine the spawner, and this giant bug just wants to pick me up. That's cool. I broke the spawner finally, but unfortunately, this was probably the first one out of 100 spawners I would be breaking. I found a little secret chest in the middle, and this creeper tried blowing it up, but the creeper was unsuccessful, and I found this thing called Experiment 115. It kind of looked like food, so I tried eating it. Well, after this spider just dive bombed me. It turns out you could eat it, but then accidentally I clicked it on the floor and it placed like cake, and it definitely looked a little weird. I finally got to the top of one of the towers and I looked down and I saw a giant ghast. Maybe this was one of the bosses, I don't know. I went down and I tried shooting it. I was very thankful that I had a power 3 infinity bow, because that means I could pretty much shoot unlimited arrows. I took out one of them and I decided to use my insane water bucket skills to make my way down there. Sometimes you just have to risk it to look cool. Well, after jumping down there, I found 2 more that were shooting fireballs at me. But fortunately, power 3 bow was too strong for him, and I took him out in only a few hits. You know, I was kind of hoping these were the final bosses, but after I figured out that they dropped nothing, I was pretty sure that there was still a final boss. And I looked up, and I probably wasn't even 25% of the way up there. Okay, so I already spent 1 day navigating this whole tower, and I barely got anywhere. On to the next day, I broke my way into the main tower, and this ghast almost fireballed me off. If it wasn't for my shield, my journey in the Twilight Forest would for sure be over. I tried hitting the fireball back with my sword, but I had no luck and I couldn't really aim, so I decided to settle with the bow, and it worked. When I got up higher, I found a room that had item frames on the wall. I followed the recipe, and this was the recipe for vanishing blocks. I then found this weird machine in the corner of the room that had a bunch of levers, so I pulled all of them, which pushed the redstone blocks into the middle of whatever block this was. After doing the 4th one, it turned into diamond and gold blocks. I was getting ready to mine them, and this definitely wasn't right. Yeah, nope, definitely shouldn't have done this. The floor and ceiling started breaking everywhere, and I wasn't really sure what was gonna happen. And then a bunch of mini ghast spawned. Yeah, so if you're planning on doing that, I suggest you don't. You will just be disappointed, even though I did end up doing it again. After a long time, I finally made it to the top of the tower, and this ginormous ghast spawned. It was called the Ghast. This thing was bigger than any mob I have seen. It started raining down ghast tears and started shooting fireballs at me. When I went under the ghast tears, it looked like they started poisoning me or something like that. Okay, so now was a really good time to be thankful for my power 3 infinity bow, because if I did not have enough arrows, I would not have beat this boss. Actually, I wouldn't have any chance to do any damage without it. I started hitting the fireballs back at it, and it seemed like the fireballs did a good amount of damage, but he only fired fireballs once every few minutes. Unfortunately, the ghast tears did so much damage that it broke my diamond helmet, and I had to survive without a helmet. I didn't think I had time to craft a new one. I kept shooting the Ghast for minutes and minutes. That was the only thing I could do, and occasionally, I shot the fireballs back at him. This was quite possibly one of the longest fights I have been in, and even the Ghast started healing from something I don't know where. But finally, I hit one fireball back at him, and I got him to no health. And I did one final bow shot, and I defeated the Urghast. The Urghast didn't drop anything except XP, but some chests spawned in the middle. I was waiting for it to stop raining, but it didn't stop raining. So I just opened the chest in the middle, and we only got a few things. One of them was the Urghast trophy, which of course I was going to collect. The second thing I got was Carmenite, which were used for the invisible blocks. And the last thing I got were fiery tears, but I didn't know what they did. This was such a long dungeon takedown, but hopefully defeating the Urghast unlocked something else. It was day 25 and I had been running for a little bit. I wanted to see what these fiery tears could do. It turns out when you combine the fiery tears with an iron ingot, you get fiery ingots. So I made 8 ingots, and it turns out you can also make armor with these. It was called fiery armor. It looked a little better than diamond, and it also said it burns attackers. So I made the helmet and I looked pretty cool. I got protection 3 on it, so now I was pretty stacked. And that's when I looked up and I saw something completely new. It looked like some sort of giant cloud, and there was this new biome that I found, except it was raining. I knew it must have been some sort of curse or something, because when I stepped under the rain, I just started taking damage. It was almost like it was acid rain or something. You know what happens now? We find the troll. I found the troll and I got the book from him. I picked up the book and it was called Notes on the Highlands. I guess that's what this biome was. I skipped to the end and it talked about how I need to take down a boss in the Searing Swamp, a deep forest, and the snow biome. I already just took down the deep forest, so that left me with one choice. Oh man, back to the fire swamp. I wasn't looking forward to this one. Yep, here he was. This was the Hydra. I feel like I needed a little time to prepare, but I decided to take a shot at him, and of course, he doesn't take bow damage. Well, that's just great. This is gonna be so fun. It is day 26 and it's time to take down the Hydra. I wanted to get rid of this guy first because he was kind of shooting at me through the window, so I had to take him down. I got rid of the spawner and I opened the chest, and at first I thought I didn't get anything, except this actually helped me out a little bit because I got to make another golden apple, and I was just really scared about the Hydra fight. It was now time, so I drank my speed potion and I drank my potion of healing. I don't know, someone explain why I just did that. Look, I thought it was regen, okay? Don't blame me. I ran up to the Hydra and already 2 of the heads started charging fireballs at me. I was really confused about how to hit it, and then I realized I could hit it in the center of the stomach, except I started smacking away and it was doing no damage. I tried hitting at the neck or the head, but nothing happened. It was really tough to reach any of the heads, so I was really confused and I had to dodge all the fire breath. One of the heads dipped a bit lower and I started swinging at it, and this time it actually did damage. It seemed like any of the heads that started spewing water were vulnerable. One of the heads would dip a bit lower, and then it would go back up, and then another head would dip lower. I did the best I could with my sharpness 4 sword to deal as much damage as I could before the heads went back up, but it wasn't doing much. And I soon figured out that the Hydra did a lot of damage. I got hit once, and it pretty much did 4 hearts. I ate a golden apple and went back in. The Hydra was now at about half health, and when I got it a bit lower, it started exploding, and I think I took out one of the heads. Keyword there was I thought, and then it grew back 2 heads. So yeah, I guess the whole Marvel Hydra phrase, cut off 1 head, 2 more grow back, well, yeah, that's true. It seemed like I was doing a really good job just running under the Hydra whenever they spit fire, and I was doing a good job avoiding damage. Last, I got the Hydra super low, and I dealt the final blow. At first I was really questioning whether this was the end of the Hydra, because none of the heads started exploding, and then I hit it once more, and the whole thing exploded. I backed up just to make sure I didn't die. I earned the achievement Hydra Slayer, and I went over to see what kind of loot dropped. It seemed like it dropped fiery tears, or fiery blood in this case. That was the same drop that the Urghast dropped. I went ahead and made a few more fiery ingots, so maybe I could go for more armor. And this zombie just had to come in to mess it all up, so thank you for that. But more importantly, I got the Hydra trophy, so I now had 7 trophies. There didn't seem like there was anything else in the cave, so it was time to continue my journey. It was almost 10 days later, and let me fill you guys in on what happened. Basically, I took down a couple more Urghasts, and I got more fiery tears. I used those fiery tears to make more fiery ingots, and I got a fiery sword along with other armor. But after boosting up my armor and weapons a bit, it was time to go exploring into the snow biome. I found this giant ocean, which I've never seen before, and I found a cave. Maybe after taking this down, I could go into the highlands. I looked inside, and there was a bunch of mobs in there. I crept on in, and it looked like I was in some sort of Yeti cave. So far they weren't attacking me, so I didn't know if they were aggressive or not. In my inventory, I pulled out hydra traps, which apparently were dropped from the hydra, and they actually gave regeneration. I went up to one of the yetis and he picked me up, so it seems like they wanted to start a fight. One of them even threw me super high. Alright, that was a declaration of war, and it was time to take down all of the yetis. Except in the middle of the cave, I saw something different. I went over to see what it was, and a ginormous yeti spawned. It was called the Alpha Yeti, and apparently it did not take damage by bow, so I had to rush it with my sword. And it started freezing me. The freeze made me so slow that it was hard to dodge any of its attacks. And it also didn't help that all of the Alpha Yeti buddies were just picking me up and tossing me around. Fortunately, my sword did a good amount of damage to them, and they were pretty easy to take out. Except then the big yeti started picking me up and throwing me from a really far distance. All of my fire armor was helping me out a bit because anytime the Alpha Yeti attacked me, he would be set on fire, so he slowly took damage over time. I decided the best course of action was to just rush the Alpha Yeti straight down the middle, and it ended up working, even though I got tossed around a little bit. I finally got the Alpha Yeti super low, and I dealt the finishing hit. And I got an achievement called Alpha Fur. I picked up whatever the Alpha Yeti dropped, and it was called Alpha Yeti Fur. And I made a sweet hat that actually chills attackers, and it came with protection too. And it was a little stronger than my current helmet, and it looked awesome. I now looked like some Yeti warrior. I noticed the Alpha Yeti didn't drop a trophy, but the Alpha Yeti dropped ice bombs. I started throwing them around to see what was up with these, and I threw it at a Yeti, and it just froze him and turned him to dust. I feel like that was kind of a harsh way to go out, so I stopped using them after at least taking 2 of them down. And that's when I stepped outside and found a ginormous glacier. The next day, I went exploring onto the glacier. I decided to just mine my way up, and when I got to the top, I found penguins. They didn't seem like they were doing anything, and they were overall just pretty chill. I had a feeling I didn't come here for penguins, and I was right. In the distance was a ginormous green and blue tower. This must have been the last boss I had to take down before I could enter the highlands. Hopefully, my new armor would be enough to protect me against whatever dangers I was about to face. I went in right through the entrance, and there was a bunch of blue and green colored blocks. I went in towards the main entrance, and I found these floating ice things. They were super weak, and it only took me about 2 hits to take them down, and they only dropped a few snowballs. But there were more enemies up ahead. I went up the next floor, and I found a chest which had an ice sword in it, but it was pretty weak, so I didn't take it. I found another one of these ice things, but this time I couldn't kill it, and it started exploding. Interestingly enough, it turned the walls to glass. I don't know what the science behind that was. I went up another floor, and I encountered a new enemy. It looked like one of the Phantom Knights, but in hindsight, it wasn't. It was just a weak guard, but it dropped steel leaf armor. I found another chest where I got unbreaking too, so I decided to put them on my boots, so they wouldn't break. I found another chest room, and after taking down the guard, I found an ice bow. I tried shooting it to see what was up, but it didn't seem any different. Maybe a little particle change, but nothing else. But after a long time of searching, I think I found the room where I needed to go. It had some ice staircase, so I made my way all the way up. I had to break through probably about 3 layers, but once I finally got to the top, I just got a boss bar that spawned. The boss that spawned was the Snow Queen. She had a circling dress of ice blocks and I couldn't hit her, and she started spawning these spinning ice things. Bows were pretty much useless. As long as she had that ice protection, I couldn't hit her at all. I had to figure out some way to get around the ice or else I'd be stuck up here. So far my sword wasn't doing the trick, but then she went through the floor and I had a chance to hit her above the ice and it did damage. So it looks like I had to wait till she went through the floor and then I could hit her. And then she started shooting me with an ice beam and unfortunately, my shield broke. I was pretty much vulnerable now. I kept timing my shots until she went all the way through the floor and I was doing a pretty good amount of damage. The Snow Queen was pretty weak relative to the other bosses and I was doing pretty well. And then I had a crazy idea. I decided to finish her off with the Scepter of Twilight, the one that I got from the Twilight Witch boss. At first, I couldn't hit her with any of my shots, but after going through the floor, I spammed the scepter and I took her down. I had successfully defeated the Snow Queen. It seemed like she only dropped the trophy and some sort of bow. I went over and picked it up and it was called the Seeker Bow. I also now had the 8th trophy, which was the Snow Queen trophy. I tried shooting a shot with the Seeker Bow, but again, it didn't seem any different. But either way, we've defeated all bosses necessary and it was time to venture into the Highlands. It was day 41 and it was time to head back to the Highlands. It took me a while to find my way back, but eventually I found it. After defeating all 3 bosses, the acid rain was lifted and I could now go into the caves. I mined this ore called Trollstein, and I tried smelting it, and this is another reason why I hate anything to do with trolls, because it doesn't do anything. I went a little deeper into the caves to see what was going on down here, and there was a lot of mobs, and I forgot I did not have a shield thanks to the Snow Queen. These caves were actually overpowered and there were diamonds everywhere, but to be honest I didn't really need them. I made a new shield and I was ready to go fight some more mobs. Hopefully this shield would last for a little longer at least. I went deeper into the caves and I found a new sort of mob. He hit me from pretty far away, but I took him down and he dropped nothing. It always seems like the cool mobs drop nothing. I found this new sort of stone and it took me a long time to mine. I had a feeling I was going in the right direction though. After mining it, I picked it up and it was called Dead Rock, but I realized that there was rain in the middle of the block and it was acid rain still. I'm pretty sure that meant there was still a curse somewhere and it needed to be lifted. I went out of the caves and I went up and I saw a ginormous castle in the distance, but I still needed to get up to the clouds first. But the cloud was super high and I didn't really have any blocks. I went back into the caves and I found a really weird room. It had a bunch of mushrooms and witches everywhere. It probably took me a good 5 minutes to clear out this cave from all the mobs, but thankfully my armor and sword were good enough to do the job. I found this obsidian box and it was just kind of sitting here, so I dug into it to see what was up. I realized it was hollow and there was a chest inside. I opened the chest and I got magic beans. Pretty weird thing to find in the middle of an obsidian box, but I'll take it. As I went through the cave, I found an even bigger obsidian box. But this one I didn't have any luck with. I mined for so long and I couldn't even break it. I went back to the surface and I was gonna see what these magic beans did. It seemed like I had to place them on that soil that it came with in the chest. I was really hoping this had some sort of Jack and the Beanstalk story to it, and I was gonna try it out. In day 42, I went a little bit away from the cloud and I found this type of soil. I grabbed the magic beans from my inventory and hopefully this would produce a beanstalk. I was also hoping it would be tall enough to get up to the cloud. And oh man, was this a tall beanstalk. Right after I placed the beans onto the soil, the beanstalk grew into the clouds and I couldn't even see the top. Well, there was only one thing I could do now, and that was slowly climb this ginormous beanstalk. Hopefully I could get up to the cloud from here. When I went up there, I noticed the cloud blocks looked really big, and there was a massive tree up there. When I got a little higher, I saw giant me's. Yep, that was me, but in giant form. And there was even one giant me with armor. This was gonna be interesting. This is not what I was expecting. The beanstalk grew a little bit away from the cloud, so I had to build my way over. I was really skeptical to see if this cloud block would just make me sink all the way through, or I could stand on it. I went for a leap of faith, and I took damage, but I didn't sink through. I tried mining it to see what it dropped, and it dropped a fluffy cloud. Pretty interesting. Now the real question is what this whole place was. It seemed like me saw me, and I started walking over to myself in giant form. Surely me wouldn't attack me, right? Nope, I was wrong. I started attacking myself. So it looked like I had to fight giant me. It's safe to say that there could only be one evbo around, and it wasn't gonna be these giants. The giant evbos were really annoying to deal with because they could hit me from super far away. But I landed some sort of combo and the giant dropped a huge pickaxe. This was called the giant's pickaxe. And let me just tell you, this thing was like 3 times bigger than me. Oh my lord, it looked huge. The pickaxe said that it mines giant blocks. I don't even know what that means. Alright, it was time to take out the armored evbo. This guy was a little tougher to take out, especially since he had backup that came out of nowhere. I don't know how I did not see this giant evbo coming. I took down one of them and he dropped a huge sword. I picked it up and totally couldn't have guessed. It was called the giant's sword. I tried using it, but the attack speed was so slow that I don't even think it was much better than my current sword. I switched back to my fiery sword and just tanked the hits that the giant was dealing to me, and I took him down too. He dropped another sword. Each giant sword had a base damage of plus 12, which was very strong. I went over to this giant house to see what was up, and when I went inside, well, there were more giants in there. It was time to fight more evbos again. I don't know if they spawned from here or what, but I took both of them down and I didn't see anything else inside this house. I decided to use the giant's pickaxe and it broke this huge block, but it only dropped one, and this was called giant cobblestone. I went to go and place it, and yeah, this placed a 4x4 block of cobblestone. This was interesting. But after checking out the house, I really got a full view of this giant castle ahead. and oh my, this was one huge castle. I don't even know if I was looking at the entrance or not, but I couldn't even see the end of it. But I could still see acid rain, so it still looks like I had more to clear before I could go in. Well, the problem was that I didn't have any leads, so it was time to go exploring for a while. It was day 50 and I am now on another giant cloud. You know what I'm doing again, I'm taking down more giants. Only one evbo is allowed to exist in this world. I spent the past 8 or so days getting a lot of enchantments for my armor and getting geared up, but I kept searching around for a way to lift this curse and I couldn't find anything. I had sharpness 4 and power 4 on most of my weapons, and I went back to the snow biome to get a new Yeti helmet because my old one was about to break. But I put unbreaking on most of my stuff, so hopefully this would last me for a while. It seemed like there was no quick way down, so you know I had to go for the jump, and I made it. Luckily. Yeah, that could have gone way worse for me. There was still acid rain, but I tried breaking the thorns, and when I broke one, it grew a new one. And when I broke the new one, it grew 2 new ones. So it seemed like that was not the way to go. I remembered that there was a giant obsidian box that I didn't open. Thanks to my giant pickaxe that broke pretty much everything in its path, well, I mined down pretty quickly, and I actually stumbled upon it very fast. The giant pickaxe took a long time, but it was actually breaking the obsidian. And this makes sense now. This obsidian box was not made out of regular obsidian, but giant obsidian. I broke into it, and I found a double chest. But there was only magic beans. I was a bit disappointed at first, but then I realized there was a second double chest right behind it, and there was this thing called the Lamp of Cinders. Well, I took the lamp, and when I went back up, it seemed like the acid rain had disappeared. It seemed like the lamp was the key. I took out the lamp and put it in my hotbar, and when I went over to the thorns, I right-clicked on one of them, and it turned it to dust. It seemed like this lamp was the only way to burn through all of these thorns. It also turns out that you can charge up the lamp, and it will take out a bunch of them in one single shot. So there was only one thing to do at this point, and that was charge my way through all of these thorns. I did not realize how many thorns stood in the way of me and the giant castle. When I finally got to the castle, I tried breaking in, but nope, that did not seem to work. So I went all the way through the thorns, and I found myself at the foot of this ginormous castle. It was so big I could not even fathom the size of it. This was hopefully where I was gonna take down the final boss, and beat the Twilight Forest. It is day 51 and it's time to explore the final castle of the Twilight Forest. I tried breaking this block and it gave me these castle rune blocks, but I couldn't really break through the side, so I had to go find the entrance. After searching for a bit, I did see a staircase in the distance. I also saw this massive building in the middle, but I couldn't really get into there. I decided to settle with the staircase that was given to me. When I got to the door, I clicked on these blocks and they started disappearing, and I got 2 achievements when I went inside. I started to ascend the staircase. So far I found nothing, but I was really hoping I could find good loot, chests, or maybe some mobs. I got to the top and I found an enderman, but so far nothing. I took a look outside and it still looked like there was a ton of castle that needed to be explored, so I was hopeful. After going across one of the bridges, I noticed on the main building that there was a giant fence cage on top. That must have been where the final boss was. I got to the top of one of the towers, but so far nothing. Except when I went into a different hallway, I found this weird blue creature. And of course more trolls. And you know how I feel about trolls. After happily taking down those annoying trolls, I went outside and I looked at the main building and I could really see how big it was, but I didn't find a way over there. I started to become hopeful when I found different looking rooms, but so far none of the bridges led over to the main building. All of these doors just led to the outskirts of the castle. So far all I found were just more trolls and this extremely fast moving troll, and it turns out a regular troll can get more annoying, and that's this one. I found a tower that was kind of destroyed by all of these thorns, so I started breaking them away and seeing what I could find. So far, I was kind of disappointed that I didn't find any chests. I went into this room and I found a different looking mob, but he didn't really seem like he was attacking me, so I'm kind of sorry for doing this. I felt a little bad for a second, and then these blue dudes started poisoning me, so I got into another fight. I decided to leave this tower, and I needed to figure out where I could build up to next. It was now day 54 and I had been exploring the castle for days, but I finally found a different building. This building looked much bigger and it looked like it had glass on the outside, or something like that. I opened the door to the building and I was met face to face with two of these blue poison dudes, except they didn't really do much damage and I didn't have a problem taking them out. I found a sign and I was about to read it and then I fell. So of course I had to go back up the stairs again and then I could read the sign. When I got back up, I took a look at the sign and it said Parkour Area 2 and Mini Boss. It turns out it wasn't actually developed yet. So I decided to build over to the main room. This room had crazy designs on it and a golden door. When I opened it up, well, I saw more giant me's coming straight for me. This was a good sign though, because now there was hope that there was actual loot in this castle. There was also some pink square in the middle and I didn't know what that was. I switched to my fiery sword because the giant sword had such a long reload speed that it was making it hard to take out these giants. But of course I'm the only evbo around and they didn't stand a chance. I went over to this pink square and I tried mining it, but then I realized there were two doors literally right beside me. So yeah, I think the doors were the way to go. Except this time when I opened it, the staircase actually went down. So I followed the staircase and I was met with these crazy rooms and more of these blue dudes who tried poisoning me. Obviously they were no match for my skill, so I took them out with ease. When I opened the door, I saw a ton of these blue dudes everywhere in the halls. And a ton of these colored rooms that had all these crazy runes on them. I walked all through the halls, but I couldn't really find anything of significance. I took down as many of these blue guys as I could, but no matter how many I took down, they didn't drop any loot. Just as I thought the castle was getting better, I started losing hope that I was gonna find more loot or some sort of chest. I tried mining into one of these colored rooms to see if it did anything or spawned anything when I went inside, but I was disappointed yet again and nothing really happened. And the worst part was, I was getting lost. So it was now day 60 and I finally found my way back. Except I thought I found my way back because I thought it was the pink room that I came from. But this one went down even deeper. So I was in for another maze yet again. I was getting a little scared because when I got down here, this looked like the exact same thing as the floor above. Except this time when I explored a little, I found thorns growing all the way down here. So maybe I was onto something. Maybe this was the maze that led me to the final boss, and I was gonna defeat it this episode. If that was the case, well, there better be some good loot. After a long time of searching, I was trying to get back to the surface, and I got lost yet again. These rooms all looked identical and I really couldn't find my way around. All was good though because I turned the corner and I saw the pink room yet again. So this was probably the one I came from. Keyword there is probably. When I got there, I noticed there wasn't a staircase up, but another staircase down. But this time at the end of the staircase, I could see a giant room at the end. This was a ginormous box carved into the depth rock, and at the very bottom, there was a sign. I would definitely have died if I jumped off. I decided to not risk the MLG water bucket and just pull a safe strat and just do it manually. I really didn't want to come this far and die in the Twilight Forest while I'm way underground. I finally jumped down and I took a look at the sign, and another disappointment. It was another undeveloped mini-boss. So far, I had found 2 areas of the final castle that were undeveloped. I looked around to see if I could find anything, but I just found regular caves and nothing else. The worst part is, I got myself all the way down here and I did not know the way out. Those mazes took me days to navigate. And now I would have to climb back up there and find my way out. But there were still rooms to be explored and I needed to check out the fenced cage on the top of the tower. It was now day 62 and it was time to go back up and take on the final boss. I finally got out of that giant pit and started smacking my way through all of those guys, and I finally made it back to the staircase. That basement definitely took me a while to navigate, but I ended up finding my way out. I finally got out and I knew I needed to go in one of the side rooms in order to get up to the top, but I didn't know which one. I saw 4 doors in each of the corners. 2 of them were yellow doors and 2 of them were blue doors. So I decided to take a chance and go for the blue door first. After clearing out a bunch of the blue guys, I decided to make my way up into the first door. When I opened it, I saw a giant staircase that went all the way up. I opened the door when I got to the top, and there was a giant room with a bunch of pillars and a huge staircase. And on the top floor, I found a giant me again. It seemed like I was gonna have to go through more giants in order to get to the final boss. And there were also trolls, and we hate trolls. I climbed up the staircase, but so far I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Just a few trolls, giants, and these blue things. I started taking down the giant because I think he was guarding the door to the very top. I saw a blue door behind him, and that's where I needed to go, I think. After checking around the other corner, it turns out there was nothing there, so I went through the door, but it turns out this door just led to outside. I tried looking around to see if it led to anywhere else, but nope, it just went outside. So I had to go back. I went back to the original corner staircase, but there was a giant evbo guarding it. So I took him down, and I made my way up towards the top. When I got to the top of the staircase, I went through another disappearing door, and I was at the final boss. There was a giant fence cage up here, but nothing else. Inside the cage, there was a spawner, and on top, it said the final boss. It looked like once I broke into the cage, the final boss would spawn. So this was finally it. I broke open the cage, and I think I was ready to take it on. I stepped into the cage, and I was ready. This was the most anticipated boss of the Twilight Forest. I took a few steps in, and a troll spawned. Yep, I am not kidding. A troll spawned, and it was called the final boss. This was really the final boss of the Twilight Forest. After fighting a hydra, a Urgast, a giant castle witch, this is the final boss of the whole Twilight Forest. I couldn't really believe it, but at the same time, I couldn't really understand why he wasn't dying. But he wasn't doing any damage whatsoever. I had enough of the troll hitting me around, so I just decided to start comboing him super hard. And this is where things kind of start to get interesting. The troll was not dying. After hitting it a bunch of times with my really good sword, it just was not dying. I was really confused for a while. Maybe they designed this final boss to be unkillable, given that the fact that the final boss isn't even finished. I mean, given that the trolls were the most annoying mob in the game, it wasn't a complete loss that I got to beat one around for a super long time. But in terms of a final boss, I was a little disappointed. I also didn't even know what I could do to take this thing down. And then that's when I decided to shoot it once with my bow, and it died. And it dropped nothing, just like any other troll. So this was the final boss of the Twilight Forest. And it said I won. We were only on day 62, and we beat the whole Twilight Forest. So there was not much to do now, but settle down and make myself a nice home. The least I can do in my last 30-ish days was make a really cool house. I traveled for a few days until I finally found a spot where I really wanted to make a home. I found this giant tree out in the middle of the clearing, and I really wanted to make a treehouse. This was gonna be the perfect spot for it. After a few days of shaping and building the tree, this is what I came up with. I hollowed out the tree and made a giant staircase that went all the way up. When the staircase got to tree branch level, it had some openings so I would make some rooms on top of the leaves. I only had started working on the very top floor, but so far I just placed some slabs around and cleared out the top. I wasn't really sure what I was going to make up here, but it had a really good view, and I was pretty happy with this location. It was a nice peaceful place to rest after beating the Twilight Forest. On day 80, I actually started to make a room up here, and this was my trophy room. I placed down every trophy of every boss we defeated in the Twilight Forest. These turned out really well, and I loved how they looked on the shelves. I also had armor stands where I started placing all of the armors from the Twilight Forest. I only had the basic ones though, and we were still missing a few suits. It was day 90 and my house was pretty much complete. On another tree branch, I made myself a bedroom. Nothing too fancy, but I really liked how these wooden trapdoors looked. I had furnaces and chests and pretty much anything you need for a bedroom. And above, I had the finished trophy room. Overall, this style of tree made it really easy to make a treehouse because I could just use the branches as all the floors. When I went up to the trophy room, I had a completed room with all of the armor sets. It took a little time to get the fiery ingots and the Yeti armor, but I ended up doing it, and this was the complete upper trophy room. I really had no idea what to do next, and then a crazy idea came to me that was the final mission. I had got him. I had got the questing ram. I searched far and wide, but I ended up finding him again, and I got him on the lead and brought him back to our house. This was our final going away mission of the Twilight Forest. I placed him on a fence outside of my house because I didn't really think I could bring him up there. He was a little too big for that. So he was gonna chill outside of the treehouse. But this was the end of the Twilight Forest. I made the portal and I threw the diamond. It was time to say goodbye. This was an incredible adventure and an incredible mod, and it was time to finish it.